Previously on You Can Beat Video Games. After waking up in a world of ruin, Celis Cherie nursed Cid back to health before setting off to find her friends. In the remains of the town of Zen, we found Sabin Rene Figaro holding up a house. His brother, Garramonde Figaro, was masquerading as a thief named Gerard, but we saw right through his ruse. Figaro Castle carried us to Collingen, where we ran into Setzer Gabbiani drinking in a cafe. His old girlfriend Daryl's airship was preserved in a tomb beneath the sea, but we were able to fly it up through the ocean, allowing us to freely explore the new world. The village of Mobliz had been obliterated in the apocalypse, but Tara Branford stepped up to take care of all the orphan children. After defeating the demon Fun Baba, we convinced her to join us. We picked up Gao on the Veldt, and then in Narshe, we recruited Mog the Moogle and Umaro, the abominable snowman. After being devoured by a monster known as the Zone Eater, we were joined by the mimic Go-Go in its belly. But our new party was about to face its greatest challenge yet, the Phoenix Cave. This trap-filled dungeon was the last place treasure hunter Locke Cole was seen alive. Could he still be here? We'll find out today on You Can Beat Video Games. If you're new to the channel, we're doing deep dives on retro video games and giving you the professional strategies that can be used by the casual gamer. Please make sure to subscribe and check out youcanbeatvideogames.com for episode lists, news, and official You Can Beat Video Games merchandise. And please join our Patreon for access to an exclusive Discord community and a chance to vote on future episodes. Let's get started. All right, Final Fantasy VI, Part 5. Before we jump back into the story, let's take a look at a trick that I didn't cover back in Part 4. Whenever you're trying to save Cid in the world of ruin, watch what happens when we talk to the bird on the beach. One of the fish stopped moving, and that was the worst fish of the three. We caught a yummy fish and a rotten fish, and the rotten fish is not good, but when paired with the yummy fish, it'll actually be a net positive. We do need to work quickly because Cid's health is always dropping while we're out catching fish, but if you're not sure which fish are bad, it's always a good idea to talk to the bird. Even when there's only 2 fish, you may have to talk to the bird a couple times, but you'll see one will eventually stop moving, and then we can catch the other fish. And when we check it on the rare item menu, we see that this one is just a fish, which is good. Well, thanks NestQuester for that trick, but we have to get back to our main quest, and that means it's time to enter the Phoenix Cave. We're going to make 2 parties here. One of the 2 parties is going to be very good in combat, and the other party includes Mog, who has the Moogle charm, so that group won't have to fight anything. Both parties start in the same place, so it doesn't matter which one is the good party. Just make sure that at least one of the 2 parties is stacked, and the other one has Mog. Whenever you're equipping items for the Phoenix Cave, many of the enemies here are weak against ice and will absorb fire, so keep that in mind. And you will also face a ton of bad status effects. The worst one is probably Zombie, but you'll face enemies that will try to confuse you, stop you, or even instantly kill you. Relics that can stop multiple negative statuses like the Ribbon are highly recommended, but if you don't have enough of those to equip your entire party, something like an amulet could work. We're going to start with Terra's group. We'll need to alternate between the two different groups so that some of them can stand on switches to open doors. So Terra will stand on this pressure switch, which will allow Mog's group to go over here. Make sure that your HPs are high enough to survive this trap. You will take a little bit of damage when you fall down here, but these characters won't have to fight any battles because of the Moogle charm, so they should be just fine. When we come back up here, we'll be able to create a bridge, and now we'll be able to get the wing edge from the chest. The wing edge will be a great weapon for Locke once we get him back, and with Umaro standing on that pressure switch, now Terra can go through the door on the right, and she can stand on this switch, which will retract these spikes. Now we're going to head over here to the right, where we'll find yet another switch, which retracts a different set of spikes, and now Terra can freely walk over here. There are numerous empty treasure chests in this cave, which are marked with a red X on the map. It seems that Locke must have gotten to those ones before us. Here we have our first battle of the Phoenix Cave, and these two enormous disembodied heads are called phases. Phases are weak against ice and absorb fire magic, and they have a 33% chance each turn to use the Smirk attack, which can inflict stop on one of our party members. Anytime you use any sort of attack against a phase, there is a 33% chance that it will counter with Blowfish, which is a lore magic that deals exactly 1000 damage. Pretty nasty stuff. Celis is going to level up soon, so we gave her the Zone Seek Esper. That'll give her a +2 to magic whenever she levels up. It's always a good idea to make sure your characters are wearing an Esper that gives them a good bonus whenever they actually level. We'll face a different assortment of enemies down here in the lower level of the Phoenix Cave, and all of the enemies you see here are weak against ice but absorb fire magic. The most interesting enemy, I think, is the Chaos Dragon, which most of the time does a whole lot of nothing, but on its second turn it has a chance of using Disaster, which will afflict a party member with a ton of negative statuses, as well as Float. On turn 6, the Chaos Dragon has a 33% chance of using Cinderizer, which can instantly kill one of our characters, but with just a little bit of luck, that Chaos Dragon will just do nothing the entire time. Celis leveled up, and with the aid of some Espers, now has magic power of 68, which is what Terra is also at. Very strong. We've been raising Edgar's Vigor with the Bismarck Esper, and now he's up to 46. So our characters are getting quite powerful, and if you want another empty chest, you can grab this one, but you can just skip those if you don't want to pick them up. I'm just showing you that they're empty for the purposes of demonstration in this video. Make sure to step on the switch to make those stones appear, and then we'll switch back over to our other party, which can now hop across those stones using them as a bridge. Hop back to the left and go up this way. You probably don't want to try to open this chest, you'll just take damage from the spikes, but you do need to step on this pressure switch, which will open up another path for Terra. Once we complete the cave, we'll get all of those treasures from the empty chests, regardless of whether or not you collected them here. We seem to have been back attacked by 3 tricksters, and these enemies, unlike most of the other enemies down here, are not weak against ice, but they are weak against holy. Tricksters occasionally use fire magic, but they only get interesting if any character on the battlefield, in our party, or on the monsters has the Reflect status. If a monster has Reflect, the tricksters will cast fire magic on their own group, hoping that it will be reflected back at us, and if one of our party members has Reflect, they'll try to cast beneficial spells at the party member, so that they'll be reflected back at the monsters. Very strange. Over here is yet another empty treasure chest which you are free to pass on by, and we want to continue up this way towards the door labeled D on the map. This time we're fighting the tricksters, but we have a preemptive attack. Against these, we're just going to use our most powerful attacks that can target all of the monsters at once, including Edgar's auto crossbow, Sabin's air blade blitz, and whichever elemental magics you want to try. If you don't remember how to do Sabin's air blade, he needs to be at least level 30, and then you're going to start it up and do a 3/4 circle clockwise around to left, or you can try pressing up, up, right, right, down, down, left. Both methods will work. Once we get back up to the top floor, we're just going to wrap around to the door labeled E on the map, but first we have 2 phases caught in a pincer attack. Now I have to tell you, even if we had them surrounded, if I saw 2 enormous disembodied heads floating in my direction, I would definitely run away. There can't be any treasures in this cave worth fighting these things. Those heads look to be about 50% taller than our party members, which means that if you scaled those up in real life, they'd probably be about 7 feet tall. That would be terrifying. In any case, Terra leveled up and Edgar learned some spells, and now Terra is our first party member to reach a magic power of 70, which is very high. Now certainly you could raise magic power all the way up to 255, but Terra is at level 31 right now, so having 70 magic power is very high. Back here with the Mog Squad, we went through the door labeled F, and now that we are on a save point, you can actually switch over to your other party, and they can use a tent, even though they are not actually on top of a save point, and they can also still save the game. So keep that in mind for other multi-party areas. As long as at least one party is on the save, any group can use a tent. And here we have a group with a phase, 2 necromancers, and a parasol. Necromancers are undead, and I believe they're the only enemies down here in the Phoenix Cave that are weak against fire magic. They're also weak against holy and healing. They have a 33% chance on their turn to use Zombie Stick, which is what they did to Edgar, and it turned him into a zombie. That is bad news for our party, because that means that Edgar now could be fighting for the other team. The Parasol enemy, which we already killed, was weak against ice magic, and on its first turn has a 33% chance of using Spin Slice, which is an attack that can cause confusion. The Necromancers have a 66% chance of countering anything that is not a basic attack with Demi or Quarter, even if your attack was lethal, and you can see that demonstrated here. Taking a bunch of Demis and Quarters, while not enough to kill your party members, will take them down to a critical level of hit points, so we'll need to do a good bit of healing after that battle. As usual, we want to try to heal the party outside of battle when possible, and as the dungeons start getting more and more difficult as we get deeper into the game, that role becomes even more important. A quick look at our statuses reveals that Edgar and Sullus will be the next 2 characters to level up, so we'll make sure that they are equipped with their appropriate espers before we move on. Now there's some spikes up ahead, so you may have guessed it, we'll need to have our other party step on a pressure plate so that those spikes will retract and we can safely pass by. That's going to bring Terra's group to the door labeled G on the map, and down here in the basement, we're going to hop across some hot rocks to make our way around this room. There is a chest here that has an actual treasure in it, but we're not going to be able to get it just yet. Instead, we can go over to the right where we'll find another empty chest, but first, we have to fight these 3 tricksters. As a general rule, as long as you're not using reflect magic against tricksters, you should be fine. So just use your most powerful magic and attacks that can hit the entire group, and you should be able to get rid of these enemies, no problem. It never ceases to amaze me how powerful Edgar's auto crossbow can be, even this late in the game. And he gained a level, as did Celis, so we can change their Espers to ones that will teach them useful magic spells, instead of ones that will just give them a good level up bonus. So we'll put Celis back on Tirado and Edgar back on Shote, and we can see how they're progressing. Celis is now also up to 70 magic power. Over here we'll find that empty chest, but what we actually need to do is go all the way over to the right so that we can go through the door marked H on the map. It doesn't look like we went very far from the door marked G, but after a big circle, we can now drain the water out of this small subterranean pond. The water must drain down to the level below because the hot liquid lava cools off, and now it can be safely walked on. As we go down into the area where the water once was, we're once again attacked by a phase, a parasol, and 2 necromancers. And this time the parasol tried to use Spin Slice, but Edgar managed to block it. That's the attack that can inflict confusion. Here come the necromancer's counterattacks. Demi will reduce a character's hit points by 50%, which is pretty bad, but Quarter reduces your current hit points by 75%, so yeah, that is significantly worse. And here is a Quarter right now, right onto Edgar, who had a ton of hit points. It brought him all the way down to 304. But with that, the enemies were defeated, and we managed to survive the battle. It was just some cuts and scrapes this time, nothing that a few cure spells can't take care of. And we can't get any farther with this group right now, so we'll switch back over to our other team, which is going to head down here into the area that was once flooded. Now we can cross over to the door labeled I on the map, and we can freely walk through the cold lava to this chest, which contains a ribbon. The ribbon is easily one of the best relics in the game, and we really can't have too many of those. Now we'll stand on this pressure plate, which will open up a new path for Terra's group. And since we just got that ribbon, let's equip it to Edgar, making him now safe from all of those bad statuses. If we head up those stairs, we'll be able to get to the end of the dungeon, but first we can collect this chest, which contains the Dragon Horn. This is a relic that helps if you're using jump attacks. And we can fight a boss, the Red Dragon. The Red Dragon, as you may expect, absorbs fire magic and is weak against ice or water magic. It is also vulnerable to the poison status, so if you hit it with a bio spell at the beginning of the battle, it will continue to take damage throughout the fight. At first, the dragon will only use Fireball or Fire 2 on one of its normal turns, but once its HP drops below 10,240, it'll start using Flare and Fire 3. There's also a timer element to this fight, and every so often the dragon will use a super powerful attack like S-Cross, which deals fire damage to the entire party, level 4 Flare, or Flare Star. Ultimately, if you have some gear that protects against fire magic, you'll be able to easily win this battle using ice magic or attacks like Sabin's Bum Rush. Now, it's worth noting, if any of your characters have the Reflect status, this dragon does not like that and will try to use Eraser to remove it. However, if you have a wall ring on, he won't be able to remove the reflect status that's granted by the wall ring, so Eraser will be a big waste of time. If you're really having problems with this dragon, you can defeat it using the Vanish Doom trick. So just cast Vanish on the dragon, follow it up with a Doom spell for an easy victory. It's really that simple. The red dragon is one of the 8 dragons that we need to defeat to get the Crusader Esper, and now that it's defeated, there are only 6 dragons left. With the red dragon out of the way, we can get back to business, and we're going to head up here where we'll find another pressure plate, but first, we'll need to take on another pair of phases. This place seems to be downright infested with these creepy heads. Terra got hit by the Smirk attack, which can inflict the stop status, so she may be stuck casting that spell for some time. It doesn't matter though. The combination of Sabin's Airblade, Edgar's Auto Crossbow, and an Ice 2 from Celis should be more than enough to clear out these enemies, and then we'll be able to continue on. At least after we heal up Edgar. He took a little bit of a beating there. Now that Edgar is back in good condition, we'll step on this pressure switch, which will make 2 stones appear on the left. That'll open up a new path for our other party. So we'll head down here through the doorway labeled I on the map, and then we'll cut over here to this one which is labeled J. We can go down here through that dark part, and now we can hop across those rocks, reuniting with the other party. There are 2 switches down here that must be pressed simultaneously. And with that, a new path opens. Only one of our 2 parties needs to reach the goal, so this group that has the Moogle charm can easily get to the bottom. But before we actually reunite with Locke, there is one set of enemies we haven't seen yet. The Aquila and 2 Chaos Dragons. And this is not them. We've certainly seen this group of enemies before, and while the Parasol is very easy to get rid of, one of the big dangers in fighting this configuration of enemies is that those necromancers will use their demi and their quarter counterattacks, and then the phase can use its blowfish technique, which deals 1,000 points of damage and will almost certainly kill any of our party members that have been affected by a quarter or a demi. So that can be problematic. Still, we're going to stay the course here. The phase can only cast Blowfish so many times. It is quite unlikely that it will be able to kill all 4 of our party members here, but it did knock out Celis, which can be concerning. And we're going to take a few more demis or quarters here as these necromancers fade away. And we have survived this battle, but it was a little bit dicey this time. After we heal up the squad, let's see if we can find that Aquila. It is the least likely monster that you'll encounter here, with an encounter rate of only 7%, but here it is. Now, we've seen the Chaos Dragons before, and we know that they mostly do nothing except on their 2nd or 6th turn when they have a 33% chance of doing something devastating. The Aquila, that one's something new, and its most dangerous attack is called Flap. That's a physical attack, but it does 5 times the normal damage. Otherwise, the Aquilas are weak against ice, they absorb fire, and on their 3rd turn they have a chance of using Cyclonic, which can put the entire party into a critical condition. But that's really all you need to know about them. Before we move on, we'll take one more look at our characters' statuses, and we'll see how everyone is progressing. Terra now has 72 magic power, and Sabin's stats are quite well rounded. And while we could finish this cave with our other party, It seems like Terra's group has been doing most of the heavy lifting, so it's only fitting that they are the ones that get to meet up with Locke. Locke is standing in front of a treasure chest on a small island, and inside it, he seems to have found what he's looking for, a legendary relic that can restore life. It's the Phoenix Magicite. The Magicite has been cracked and damaged over time, but perhaps there is still enough power in it to save Rachel. Locke says that his life will have no meaning until he rights this terrible wrong, so we will join him as he returns to Collingen. Back at the village, Locke takes the treasure of the Phoenix Cave down into the basement where Rachel is still sleeping. As Locke places the Magicite upon Rachel's body, it seems to have no effect. Maybe after all this time, the magic had drained out, and there was just nothing left. The crazy old man who's been keeping Rachel alive criticizes Locke for wasting his time. But then, the Magicite starts to glow, and it floats up into the sky. With a bright red flash, the power of the Phoenix is released. Miraculously, Rachel opens her eyes. "Locke," she says. "Rachel." He can't believe it's true. She's finally back. But the Phoenix can only bring her back for a short time, and she'll have to leave again soon. But she has something that she needs to say. "Locke, with you I was so happy. In the instant that the accident occurred, I thought only of you and about the joy you brought me. Thank you, Locke. I'll never forget you." Rachel pauses, struggling to continue. "I have to go now, but I'll always love you. You must now cast off the anguish you've been harboring inside for so long. Today, I set your heart free. You must learn to love yourself again and regain your self-respect. Phoenix, be reborn again and give your power to Locke. Because when I arrive, I bring the fire. Make you come alive, I can take you higher. Who am I? Forgot? I must now remind you. Let it lock, let it lock, let it lock." With a bright red flourish, Rachel was gone. But from her ashes, the Phoenix would be reborn. In the moment, Locke felt nothing but grief and sadness for the loss of Rachel, but deep down he knew that she had gone on to a better place, and that maybe being trapped in suspended animation under an old man's house was a fate that was worse than death. With a moment to breathe, Locke understood that what he had done for Rachel was for the best, and now everything was going to be all right. With Celis by his side, they would take on Kefka, but they wouldn't have to do it without any help, because Locke found more than just the Phoenix Esper in that cave. We passed by a lot of empty treasure chests in there, and now that Locke is back on the roster, those treasures are ours. There's an X potion, a Phoenix down, an X ether, an elixir, a flame shield, and a Valiant knife. The treasures of the Phoenix Cave. With those treasures added to our coffers, it's time to move out. But before we do, we should give Locke some appropriate equipment, and we can take a look at his status. With 47 speed, he is by far one of our fastest characters. But we didn't recruit Locke just for his speed. He's actually the key to getting some of the best equipment in the entire game. But before we can get back to the airship, it seems that we've been attacked by a harpy eye, and we'll need to quickly take care of that big bird before we can fly on out of here. Alright, with that distraction out of the way, it's time to head back to Narshe. But before we do, let's make a full party with 4 actual characters. Remember, there are monsters within the city limits of Narshe, so you need to be ready to fight whenever you go in there. We'll choose a party with Edgar, Terra, Sabin, and Locke, 4 of our most powerful, but you can choose any characters you want as long as at least one of them is Locke. And before we go on, we can stop over at Figaro Castle where we can use a free inn, so that's a good idea. And we're going to put the Thief Glove and the Sprint Shoes on Locke for now so that we can quickly move through the castle. So we'll head over here to the left where we can spend the night for free, and that will restore our hit points and magic points, as well as fixing up any bad statuses. While we're here, it may be a good time to purchase some items, because if Edgar is the party leader, this is the only place in the game where you can get a discount at stores. You'll actually be able to purchase the items at cost, which is 50% of what they normally cost. So we can buy tents and potions for what we would be able to sell them back for. So pick up as many of those consumable items as you want, and then we'll head back to our airship. Now, Locke's ability to steal items from enemies is extremely useful, and it would probably be worth getting Locke back just for that. But in reality, Gungho or even Shadow can do some stealing for us in a pinch, so there's another reason that we needed Locke. So we're going to make a party that obviously includes Locke, and we're also going to bring along Mog so that we can save ourselves a bit of hassle using his Moogle charm. The other 2 characters that you choose can be whoever, so just pick your favorites. And then we'll have this old man unequip the characters that are not currently in the party so that we can give some good gear to the ones we just added. We'll make sure that Mog is equipped with the Moogle charm, and we'll assign a few Espers, but we're not going to be fighting any battles because of that Moogle charm, so what items and Espers we have equipped is not extremely important for this part. The last time we visited Narshe, there were a lot of buildings with locked doors that we couldn't get through, but now that we have a master thief in our party, well, those locked doors won't be a problem anymore. In fact, Locke's ability to unlock doors is unrivaled. He simply knocks on a door, turns around and winks, and suddenly the door is open. That's like Arthur Fonzarelli style. Many of the locked buildings are abandoned, but the main attraction is here at the weapon shop. With a couple knocks and a wink, we're able to get through the door, and in a back room, we find an old man that has a very useful treasure for us, and an important decision. The glowing stone that the man has is the Ragnarok Esper, and it could be very powerful if forged into a sword. So that's what we're going to select. But whichever choice you make, you will not be able to take the other item. So either take the Ragnarok sword, one of the most powerful weapons in the game, or choose the Ragnarok Esper. Now, what if we chose the Esper? Let's take a look at that very quickly. Ragnarok as Magicite is extremely powerful. It teaches us one of the best spells in the game, if not the best spell, Ultima. Ultima hits all enemies with a spell power of 150, and it ignores Reflect and Magic defense. It is extremely powerful, although we will only learn it at a rate of 1x, So if you want to learn Ultima quickly, the fastest place to learn magic in the world of Ruin is probably this area near the town of Miranda. In preparation for this, we're going to equip Locke with the Sniper Sight, which is a relic that makes his attack always hit, and we want to equip him with the Atma weapon, which ignores defense. There are only 2 types of monsters you can meet in the desert down here, and one of them is this Hoover, which is the more dangerous of the 2. Luckily, Hoovers are vulnerable to Doom magic, so Edgar's Air Anchor works. Whenever you hit the Hoover with the Air Anchor, as soon as it takes another action, it will immediately die. And it's worth 5 magic points. Not bad. But what we're really hoping to meet is a Cactrot. These are a bit more rare than the Hoovers, but you'll meet them frequently enough. Cactrots have extremely high defense, high magic defense, and high magic evasion, so to defeat them, you want to either use the Sniper Sight with the Atma weapon, use Edgar's Drill, or Sabin's Bum Rush. The great thing about Cactrots is that they're worth 10 magic points, so by easily defeating these enemies, we can rack up spell points extremely fast. And you'll see that Terra has learned Ultima. So let's try out the Ragnarok Esper first. The Metamorph Summon spell will try to transform an enemy into an item, and if successful, that enemy will die and the item will be added to your inventory, but I find that this spell seems to miss very often, so it's not reliable, and you won't get any unique items that you won't be able to find elsewhere by using it, so it's not super important to have. Ultima, on the other hand, well, you can see what that looks like right here. It just decimates the enemies. This spell is absolutely worth getting. Terra can learn the Ultima spell naturally at level 99, and you can also get it with the Paladin shield, but getting the Paladin shield is a bit of an ordeal, and we're going to talk about that in the next few minutes here, but if you don't intend to do the Paladin shield, I definitely recommend just getting the Ragnarok Esper, because the Ultima spell is probably more powerful than the Ragnarok sword ever will be. You can steal a Ragnarok sword from one of the final bosses, but you won't really be able to do much with it at that point in the game. And if you want the Illumina sword, well, the only way to get it is to have Ragnarok first. Completists will probably want the sword, but you'll always have some sort of hole in your collection. In this tiny house, we'll find a sick old man, and the reason that he's sick is probably because he has this cursed shield, which he will happily give to us. The cursed shield seems straight up awful. It provides no defense, and it gives a -7 penalty to all of your stats. It also afflicts the wearer with tons of bad statuses, including Condemned, Berserk, Silence, Sap, Confuse. It's terrible. However, if you can keep it equipped and win 256 battles, it will transform into the best shield in the entire game, and you can mitigate some of the negative effects by using a ribbon relic. So we're going to equip Locke with the Cursed Shield, and he's going to take the Cursed Shield challenge. Before we leave Narshe, there was one locked chest in that treasure room that we were unable to open before. It's empty, but Locke is now skilled enough to open it up. So we won't leave any chests unopened, and we will head away from the city limits. Now let's talk for a moment about breaking the curse on the Paladin shield. We need to win 256 battles, and the easiest way to do that is probably to go to the solitary island and just stay out of the desert in this area. We'll need to remove the Moogle charm so that we can actually have some random monster encounters, but the enemies here are so weak that you can defeat them without really paying attention. Even if you don't press any buttons, many of the enemies will just die on their own. It's very important to note that for a battle to count towards breaking the curse on the Paladin shield, it must give you magic points at the end. So if you're fighting on the Veldt, for instance, there may be some battles that you'll fight that don't yield magic points, and those ones would not count. And you can see here that these peepers are just too easy to beat, and they do provide a magic point, so that does count towards lifting the curse. It's also worth noting that while Gungho can equip the cursed shield, Gungho doesn't receive magic points at the end of battles. Gungho just knows all the magic spells that you know, so they are unable to uncurse the shield. Any battles won while Gungho is carrying the shield just don't count. The Paladin shield itself is sort of like the opposite of the cursed shield. It gives you a +7 to all your stats, and it makes you immune to almost all elemental magic, sort of like the Minerva armor, but it's something that anyone can wear. And even better, it will teach you the Ultima spell, so you don't need the Ragnarok Esper to learn it. We're not going to finish the Paladin shield right now. We're just going to let Locke wear it, and he'll rack up some battles over time, and then we can finish it up at the end of the game. If you intend to try to do the Paladin shield that way, just don't forget that's what you're doing and unequip the ribbon, or you'll start up a battle and the character wearing the shield will be in a really bad spot. The next thing we're going to do is wager the Ragnarok sword at the Colosseum so we can win the Illumina sword, and to do that we're going to use Gungho, and we want to give them a special loadout of equipment that includes the flame shield, as well as the wall ring and safety bit. So make sure to equip all of those items, and if you have the pearl rod, that's a good weapon to use. Then we're going to go into their status menu and choose 3 fight commands, so Gungho should do nothing but fight whenever we get into the Colosseum. The ability to customize Gungho's menu makes them very well suited to winning at the Colosseum, and we'll be able to take advantage of that here. This set of equipment should make the battle foolproof, but we'll save the game just in case. We definitely don't want to lose our Ragnarok sword for nothing. Before we start fighting, let's explore the Colosseum a bit. It seems that Ultros works here now as a receptionist, and his new friend Chupon, well, Chupon is someone that you may have to fight in the arena. There are a lot of different things that we can win here by wagering certain items at the Colosseum, but for any items that don't have a special prize, you'll face Chupon as the default. And Chupon is very difficult to defeat in battle. He will often sneeze you out of the fight, although you get your item back if he does that. The inn here costs 400 gold pieces? That's highway robbery. How about no? Over here we find out that Ultros was deep in gambling debts here at the Colosseum, and that's why he has to work as a receptionist for the next 100 years. One of the thieves seated at the table tells us to get a load of the crowds, and oh yeah, this place is very crowded. But what does count as a crowd here in the post-apocalypse? 10 people? 20? In any case, you'll need to unequip the Ragnarok sword before you'll be able to wager it, and if you talk to this guy, he'll give you a little bit of an overview of how the Colosseum works. The fights in the Colosseum are one-on-one duels, and we will not be in control of the action. Instead, the game's AI will take control of our character, and it will choose attacks pretty much at random. Most of our other characters have a long list of spells or other attacks that the game could choose from, but we were able to customize Gungho's menu, so Gungho's just going to be doing an attack each round, and that's exactly what we wanted. Daedalus is an endgame monster from Kefka's Tower, and whenever it uses Flare Star, because we've equipped the Flame Shield, it will actually heal Gungho. Many of its other spells will be reflected by the Wall Ring, and the Blaster attack, which normally would instantly kill Gungho, will be stopped by the Safety Bit. So that's why we used those particular relics. There's Blaster, but the Safety Bit will protect from that. And Gungho will just keep chipping away at this boss, one turn at a time. We will take damage from Daedalus's physical attack, so if it uses too many of those, we can lose this battle, but most of the time it's just going to try to use a magical attack, and at this point in the fight, it doesn't even have enough MP to use those. So it's basically just doing nothing on any of its turns, but we had those magic attacks covered with our relics and equipment anyways, so even if it could cast those spells, we would still be safe. And in fact, Flare Star would be helpful. Daedalus is a Kefka's Tower enemy with about 12,000 hit points, so it's going to take Gungho about 11 hits to chip through this guy. The reward we get is the Illumina sword, which is better than the Ragnarok in like 95% of situations. The only time when it might be bad is if you're fighting an enemy that absorbs holy magic, because it has a 25% chance to cast Pearl whenever you attack. Ragnarok would cast Flare 25% of the time, which is non-elemental, so it doesn't have that problem. Otherwise, Illumina is sweet. 255 power, always hits. It deals the same amount of damage from the back row as it would in the front row. It also does drain your magic points, but it does that so that you always get critical hits. So pay attention to your magic points when you're using Illumina. You don't want to end up with 0 all of a sudden. With this incredible weapon in our possession, it's time to recruit Cyan, and to do that, we're going to create a party of our 4 best characters, and we're going to land near Zozo. We now have 4 ribbons, so we can equip one to each of our party members, which is going to make negative statuses a thing of the past. There's not much that the ribbon can't stop. Now, before you go to Zozo, make sure that you've already visited Miranda and spoke to Lola there. After speaking to Lola, you have to take her letter to a bird which you'll find in town, and after you speak to that bird, you'll see it fly away to the city of Zozo. Before you can get into the next dungeon, you'll need to have done all of that. It's worth noting at this point in the game, if you use the Optimum Equipment command, that you will get a reasonable set of equipment, but it may not be the very best equipment you could be using. You'll need to manually choose a few pieces. The game notoriously ignores items like the Force Shield and the Force Armor, which we know are very good. We'll save our game and head into Zozo, and if you did all of the previous quests in Miranda, you will see a bird which you'll need to talk to as soon as you get into town. That bird will fly away. Well, that seems to be the direction that we want to head, so we'll work our way around, and yes, Zozo is still infested with enemies, but these are the same enemies that we fought back in the World of Balance, so they are trivial to defeat right now. I mean, these gobbledygooks only have 350 hit points, and we're hitting them for over 2,000 with one of Sabin's blitzes. So yeah, those guys don't stand much of a chance. Walk around that casually placed corpse and talk to this man, who will sell us Rust Rid for 1,000 gold pieces. Make sure to buy that because we need it to get into the next area. If that guy won't sell you Rust Rid, it's probably because you didn't do something back in Miranda, So head back there, talk to Lola, and mail her letter with the bird in town. We can use the fire dance to clear out the gobbledygooks this time. Pretty much anything that hits a group of enemies will be good enough. And we're going to head into the cafe. Work your way up the stairs here, and we want to go back outside, which is on the right side at the top. So we'll head over here to the right, and we've encountered a harvester. Oh no. A harvester has 428 hit points, so a basic attack with our illumina sword will be enough. Now, that guy tried to steal money from us, but we get the money back whenever we finish the battle. So yeah, nice try, harvester. You can take our cash, but we'll get it back when we loot your corpse. Edgar has learned all that Shote is able to teach him, so we'll switch him over to the Paladin Esper. And we'll head up these stairs outside, and this door on the left is the one you need to use the rust grid on. You'll use it automatically if you have it. As we pass through the rusted door, we'll be attacked once again by gobbledygooks. You may notice that Locke has a number above his head, and that's because he's condemned. Wearing the cursed shield will condemn your character, and the ribbon doesn't take that effect away, so we will need to win each of these battles in under a minute, or Locke is going to die. Now that we've entered the mountainous region behind the city of Zozo, we'll start to fight more appropriate enemies. And here we have a Boris. Well, it seems that we got the Pearl attack whenever Locke used the Illumina sword against him, and he even stole a muscle belt. Nice! The Boris enemies are weak against poison, so that's why we used Bio, and they have a little less than 5,000 hit points. Over here we'll find an ice shield, so that could come in handy. It's another one of the elemental shields and will allow you to absorb ice magic. And here we have the most common enemy that we'll see here in the caves, although this is not the most common configuration that you'll see an Ursus in. This guy's actually not dangerous at all. Instead, it will try to steal money from us, and on its next turn, it will try to run away with that money so that we can't get it back. It can also counterattack by stealing from us. So that's what we're up against here. A bear that picks your pocket. Although I guess in later versions of the game, this guy is called a mug bear, so maybe it's more of an armed robbery type situation. The reality here is that even if the Ursus monsters would steal a little bit of money from us, at this point in the game it wouldn't even be that bad. It's a tough world out there, and honestly, those bears probably need the money more than we do. Well, look at that. Here's another Ursus trying to rob us for our hard-earned gold pieces. These guys are weak against fire magic, and only have around 2,400 hit points, so a nice Fire 2 spell should be enough to roast one of these bears. We'll work our way around this cavern and we'll head up through the door labeled B on the map, and that will take us up near this treasure chest, but first we'll have to fight another Boris. The Boris enemies are weak against poison, so use your bio or poison magics against it. This monster feels like it does a lot of nothing, but if it hits you with its uppercut attack, that deals 5 times the normal damage and would hit very hard. The enemies in this area are supposed to have high evasion, but it doesn't work in this version of the game, so the enemies are actually very easy to defeat. We found the Aegis shield here in a chest, and this one has very good base stats, also increasing your magic blocking by 40. So yeah, that's probably worth collecting. Outside we'll find the gold hairpin, which is a useful relic that reduces magic costs by 50%, but we'll find the economizer later, which makes all spells cost 1 magic point, and that's even better. Outside we'll face some different monsters. These Lyridins have high defense, but they're very vulnerable to magic. They're weak against fire and wind, so Sabin's Airblade just absolutely decimates them. Once they're out of the way, we'll walk over this bridge and we'll head into this cave, which is labeled C on the map, and you'll see a save point here. That's because we are very near an optional boss, the Storm Dragon. You probably noticed a conspicuous switch in the upper part of this area, and that's what we need to press to fight the Storm Dragon. So we'll head up there to do that now. But first, it seems that we've been attacked by another bear trying to get our cash. But it won't have much of a chance, because Locke not only hit it with the Illumina sword, he got the Holy Special attack, which dealt just enough damage to finish the monster off. Terra gained a level, which is not the worst thing that could happen right before a boss fight, and we'll see that she's now up to 74 magic power. Very strong. We'll press the switch and you'll see a treasure chest open, and out pops the dragon. It'll fly around several times before actually fighting us, so just kind of wait here for it to come. Alright, hurry up, dragon. You've done enough circles, haven't you? Alright, here it is. The Storm Dragon. The Thunder Shield can prevent wind damage, so that'll keep us safe from many of the Storm Dragon's attacks. As luck would have it, we walked by a Thunder Shield on the way here, so you should have at least one of those in your inventory. Now, the Thunder Shield can't prevent against everything, including the Rage attack, which looks like a bunch of swirling leaves. That one's actually non-elemental. Oh, and here it is. And yeah, our characters are not protected from that one, but it doesn't deal a ton of damage to all of us. When the boss's hit points drop below 15,360, it'll have a chance to use spells like Arrow and Cyclonic, and Cyclonic is particularly nasty because it can leave our party in critical condition. So we do want to finish this fight quickly. The dragon is weak against lightning magic and absorbs wind, so use your most powerful lightning spells. Sabin's Bum Rush also works great, as does the Ultima spell and Edgar's tools that ignore defense. The Storm Dragon drops Force Armor when defeated, and considering we'll need to outfit 3 parties whenever we go to Kefka's Tower, we need all the good armor we can get our hands on. Now, if you're having trouble with this boss, you could use the Vanish Doom trick, or we can try a slight variation and use the Vanish X-Zone trick. It works in a similar way. Whenever an enemy is vanished, the X-Zone won't miss and will immediately end the battle. The little difference here is that you won't see the boss's death animation, and it won't trigger any enemy's death attacks. So that could matter in some situations, which we'll see later. With the Storm Dragon defeated, there are only 5 dragons left, and that was the only boss here on Mount Zozo, so we'll only need to face normal enemies on the way to Cyan. And here we have a Boris that actually attacked us this time. Nice job, buddy. Remember that this guy is weak against poison magic, so a shot of Bio from Terra should be about enough to defeat it. And combined with the attack that Locke did earlier on, it was enough. We'll make our way down here and we're going to head towards that door in the lower right corner. But first, we'll fight an Ursus with its friend, a Punisher. Unless you're extremely concerned about losing your money, the Punisher should be the priority target here. Punishers are weak against poison magic, and they mostly do physical attacks. If they survive till their 3rd turn, they may do an attack that deals double damage, but they probably won't make it that far. Terra has learned all of the spells that Tritalk can teach her, although that is a very good Esper for level up bonuses. We'll let Sabin use it for now, and we'll switch Terra over to Torado. We just need to make it through this part and we are almost to Cyan. In this small cave, we can see where he's been writing the letters. And when we read his most current letter, it seems that he's planning to finally come clean. He says we humans tend to allow the past to destroy our lives. I implore you not to let that happen. It's time to look forward, to rediscover love, and to embrace the beauty of life. You have so much life left to live. Cyan, have you been catfishing a woman using carrier pigeons? Even in this world of low technology, it seems that emotionally vulnerable people are never truly safe. Cyan, my man, I saw the message that you wrote in the other room, and I think you're doing the right thing. It's about time that you come clean and let Lola down easily. I suppose to be fair, we also wrote some letters to Lola on her boyfriend's behalf, but at least when we were writing them, that guy was still alive. Cyan has the nerve to ask how we found him. Well, Cyan, you haven't exactly been subtle. Sending silk flowers? Calling everyone that you bump into thou? Yeah, you don't gotta be Sherlock Holmes to find this place. Embarrassed that we've read what he's written, Cyan scrambles to hide all of the beautiful silk flowers that he made. They're merely a diversion of mine, he says. But it's not hard to see through what he's doing. It may have been over a year since they died, but Cyan is still dealing with the tragic loss of his wife and child. And he thought that maybe, through his letters, he could spare Lola some pain. I learned of that poor girl when I passed through Miranda. When I heard that she sent a letter each day but never received any replies, something inside me snapped. As I wrote to that girl, I realized that we were very much alike. I was looking behind, full of despair. My eyes were closed. Then something changed. After that, Cyan officially joins the team, but how do we open the treasure chest in his cave? Well, outside we'll see a sparkle in the upper left. That's the key that we need. You'd think that Locke would just be able to pick this thing, but no, we need that key. Inside we won't find anything useful, but we will find a machinery manual and a book of secrets. Two rare items related to the fact that Cyan is not good at using machines. And once we have them, we can finally warp out of here. If you don't have the warp spell, you could also use a warp stone. With Cyan back on the roster, we'll pilot our airship back to the village of Miranda, where we can finish up the Lola storyline. We'll need to add him to our party first, so we'll head down into the airship, and we'll make a party that includes Cyan and really any other 3 characters. So we'll add our new addition, and we'll put Locke, Sabin, and Terra in there. Feel free to choose whoever you want. We probably won't be getting into any fights unless we're ambushed as soon as we land the airship. That has happened before. We'll land here near Miranda, and we better make sure that Cyan is equipped just in case, but we were able to get into the town without hitting any encounters. Back in Miranda, it's time for Cyan to confess his crimes to Lola and make amends for what he's done. Do you think she might be into older guys? I don't know what the dating scene's like in the post-apocalypse, but I have a feeling that there aren't that many fish in the sea, and most of the ones that you'd find are the kind that seagull on the beach would stop from moving. It turns out that Lola already suspected that someone else was writing the letters, and she really wants to meet that person. But Cyan decides to remain anonymous. He surreptitiously switches the letter on her desk with one that he brought himself, and walks away. I guess that Lola was already happy, and he doesn't want to mess that up. So for now, the case of the carrier pigeon catfish is closed. We'll save the game and board our airship once again. We have 3 more characters that we need to find, and the next one we're looking for is Shadow. If you decided to abandon Shadow at the floating continent and left him to die, this part of the game will be a little bit different, because you will not be able to recruit Shadow in the World of Ruin. However, you should still do this next cave, because you'll need to complete it in order to get a different character. So either way, the cave in the Veldt is our next destination. We just got Cyan back, so let's add him to the party and make sure he has some good equipment. We can give him the Strago, which is a powerful weapon, and we'll need to do a little bit of manual equipping to get him the best armor. For relics, we'll give him the Hero Ring, which will power up his magic and physical attacks, and we'll also equip a ribbon, which will prevent negative status ailments. For Espers, we'll use the Paladin Esper so that he can learn some useful utility magic. It'll take over 7,000 experience points to level up Cyan, but whenever we get close, we'll want to give him the Bismarck Esper so that we can pump up his vigor and make his physical attack stronger. Well, I hope no one in the party has a fresh pedicure, because the cave in the Veldt is absolutely infested with toe cutters. And I am not kidding either. About 93% of the random encounters that you'll meet here in this cave will be either 1 toe cutter or 2. And when we get up to this part of the cave, we'll see Interceptor. It seems like Shadow must be nearby. That lower cave leads to a dead end, so we'll take this upper one instead. In here, we'll work our way around, and look at that. It's a pair of toe cutters. Toe cutters are weak against fire or wind magic, and they absorb ice magic, so you'll want to use your best fire or wind attacks like Sabin's Airblade. And it looks like Sabin gained a level, and Cyan learned some spells. We've been building up Sabin's magic power because his best blitz attacks are magical in nature, and it's really starting to pay off. His blitzes are extremely powerful right now. Locke knows a decent number of spells, but we could use another physical attacker, so he and Cyan will have to share the Bismarck Esper whenever they're leveling up. Talking to these thieves that are huddled around the campfire reveals some clues about recruiting Gao, which we've already done. They allude to the fact that you need to have 3 or fewer characters in your party or he won't appear on the Veldt. And just in case you weren't sure, the thief at the bottom makes it extremely clear. In this chest we'll find the Rage Ring, which is a special relic for Umaro, which allows him to throw characters. Very cool. Here we have some more toe cutters, and these enemies mostly just do basic attacks, but whenever you attack them with anything, they have a 33% chance of using Doomsickle, which can absorb hit points. We haven't used Cyan's Quadra Slam yet, so let's try that sword tech out. It takes a while to charge up, but it does deliver 4 attacks to random enemies. The Quadra Slam is cool, but it takes a long time to charge up, and it's really nothing compared to Terra's Fire 3 magic, which just obliterated those guys. back in the cave, did none of those thieves huddled around the campfire see the giant mantises that were attacking us? That fight happened just a few feet away from them. Now you may be wondering, why are these things called toe cutters? And I think it's just a bad translation. I believe that these were originally called something that sounds like two cutter, like the number 2, and it refers to the 2 big bladed arms that they have. And in later versions of the game, they're called twin scythes, so I think that confirms my theory. Before we open up this next treasure chest, it's a good idea to equip somebody with the safety bit, because this chest contains a monster that likes to use doom type attacks, and so having someone with the safety bit is a good safety measure. And here is the aloe vera, and immediately it starts out casting doom. Luckily, Cyan blocked it. Good job, Cyan. This thing's an undead, so it has the regular undead vulnerabilities, and well, we hit it with the holy special attack, so yeah, that's going to do a lot of damage. It has 8,000 health though, so it will take a little bit more to finish this guy off, and it's also weak against fire in addition to holy, and it is resistant to poison, so don't use poison or doom type attacks against that guy. The aloe vera drops the tiger fangs, which is an excellent weapon for Sabin. It has 215 power, and it also adds +3 to his vigor and magic, as well as +2 to his stamina and speed. You gotta love weapons that increase your stats, and with Terra's high magic power, it looks like Fire 2 is strong enough to clear out the toe cutters in a single blast. So keep that in mind. If you have high magic power, you should be able to clear those with lesser fire magics. Now we're down in the lower part of the cave, and we want to head over here to the lower right corner. That will bring us down to the door labeled C on the map, and in this area we need to find a very important weapon. But first we have to deal with another toe cutter. So deal with this toe cutter in any way that you want to. It doesn't really take much, and it looks like the Illumina sword will do the work here and defeat it by casting the extra pearl spell. And there's a 1 in 4 chance that that will happen every time you attack with the Illumina sword, so you can see how powerful that weapon can be. We'll heal the party, and then we'll head down through this door. We need to pull this lever to move that rock up above out of the way, but do not forget to get this treasure chest. It contains the Striker, which is a Dirk type weapon, but more importantly, we will need that weapon to be able to actually recruit Shadow. Now, if Shadow is dead, it's not as important, but if you do intend to get Shadow back, you'll want to make sure to pick up the Striker. Do not miss it. After exterminating another toe cutter, we'll head up and to the right through the door that was blocked by that rock before we pulled the lever. Then we'll head down this way, and it seems that we have to fight a toe cutter again. But we know these guys are pretty easy to defeat, and this time we got countered with the Doom Sickle, but it missed. We can just use basic attacks, and that should be enough to defeat this guy. And there we've used Illumina again, defeating the toe cutter once more. The critical hits that we get with the Illumina sword are costing Locke magic points. It's not that many magic points, but we should pay attention to it and make sure he doesn't drop to 0. You may have noticed that there was a save point in this room, and you might think that means this room is safe, but nope, there are toe cutters in here too, and we just found one. There's the Doom Sickle, and we blocked it again, so 0 for 2 with the Doom Sickle, and there's an Aura Bolt to easily defeat that monster. almost any of Sabin's good blitz attacks can beat the toe cutters. We'll head up here, and we can use a tent so that we can restore our hit points and magic points. Of course, it'll also restore bad statuses, and we could save the game. Probably a good idea. From here, we're going to go through this door on the bottom left, and this is where we'll fight the boss. Shadow appears to be wounded, and that's why Interceptor led us to this spot. Oof, these wounds do not look good. But Cyan, look out behind you! It's the Senior Behemoth! Get ready to fight not one, but two bosses here. The first Senior Behemoth likes to use Ice 2 or Ice 3 magic, but does occasionally cast Pearl, also known as Holy. This guy is weak against fire and poison, but will absorb ice magic, as you might suspect from it casting all of these ice spells. Our characters are wearing gear that has a lot of magic evasion, so many of the Senior Behemoth spells are simply going to miss. Sabin's Bum Rush, as usual, is very good against this boss, and if you know Fire 3, that one will finish it off quickly. The second boss we have to fight here is an undead Senior Behemoth. Now, I'm not sure if this is a totally different monster or if the one we just killed immediately reanimated, but either way, this one is weak against fire and holy magics, and it absorbs poison. This boss also behaves differently. It is not the same. It likes to use hypno gas, which can make your characters fall asleep. If it succeeds in making one of them fall asleep, it will attack that character 4 times and will call out a 4-hit combo. It can also cast spells like Doom. The Ragnarok Esper summon actually works quite nicely here, taking our characters off of the battlefield so that they can't be hurt by the behemoth, and then dealing big damage whenever they drop in. Of course, an alternate strategy you can use is, you guessed it, Vanish Doom. Yep, the Senior Behemoth is vulnerable to Vanish, so we can Vanish and Doom this guy out of existence. The Undead Senior Behemoth is even easier to defeat. Because it's undead, there are many ways we can deal with it, including simply using a Revivify item. And I'm pretty sure Revivifies don't miss, and it will always instantly KO the boss. It is really that simple. We get the Behemoth suit for winning here, which is a great piece of armor for Strago or Relm that provides nice defense and +6 to each one of their stats. Now you'll notice that it says, let's get her back to Thamasa, but don't read into that too much. It does not mean that underneath the armor, Shadow is actually a woman, like some kind of Final Fantasy Samus Aran. Nope, we know that underneath the armor, Shadow is a man named Clyde. There is actually a good reason why it refers to Shadow as a her there, and you'll see why in just a few moments. But first, whenever we bring Shadow back to Thamasa, we see another one of his dreams. In this dream, we see Shadow without his ninja garb in the town of Thamasa. He says, "I won't be coming back. I want you and the girl to live in a peaceful world." But Interceptor doesn't listen, and of course accompanies him on his journey. We've seen most of Shadow's dreams at this point, but once we officially get him back in the party, we'll have to stop by an inn and watch the remaining ones. For now, Shadow seems to be fine, but we won't get him back in the party just yet. There's another step that we'll still have to accomplish. Now, what if Shadow had died at the floating continent? Well, instead, you'll find Relm in the cave in the Veldt. If Shadow is alive, you can recruit Relm anytime in the World of Ruin after you get the airship. But if Shadow died at the floating continent, you must save her in the cave in the Veldt first before you'll be able to do the rest of Relm's quest. When you save her here, you'll also get to see Relm's dream. And this one is a little bit different from Shadow's dreams, but it confirms their connection. Papa, where'd he go? Is he ever coming back? Yep. It's pretty clear from this that Shadow is Relm's father. It's interesting how the two different dreams that you can see in this part of the game are connected. It's likely that the dream we saw for Shadow would have happened moments after Relm's dream. After saving Relm in the cave, we are not done. We still need to talk to a man in town before we can advance our quest, and it's this guy right here. You'll need to talk to him, leave town, and come back in and talk to him again. You need him to say something about working for an aristocrat in Jidoor, and this is the message we were looking for. Until you get that message, you will not be able to recruit Relm later. But back in our game where Shadow is alive, we don't have to do any of that stuff to be able to get Relm back. So let's take a moment to explore the village of Thamasa here in the World of Ruin. It's been a while since we've checked this place out, and there are some different items here at the weapon and armor shops. Circlets provide a nice bonus to your stats, including +4 to magic, which is pretty good for a helmet. Over here we can find a different weapon for Relm, the Da Vinci brush, and another weapon for Setzer, the trump cards. You can also pick up some shurikens or the upgraded version, ninja stars, for Shadow to throw. Back outside, we can head over to the right side of town where we'll find the item shop, and this one just has the usual fare. Potions, Phoenix Downs, remedies. Yeah, we've seen that stuff in many other places, and most of it we'd probably rather purchase at Figaro Castle, where we can get Edgar's discount. This woman tells us about Ebot's Rock Cave, which is a place we'll need to go to later, and up here in the Elder's house, we can chat with the old man for a moment about before the world changed. It does feel like that was forever ago. Over near the inn, we'll see a mysterious thief who tells us an ominous tale about being attacked by demons while taking a nap in Doma Castle. And here at the inn, it's still only 1 gold piece per night, a very good value. There are some free places for us to stay, but this place is quite nice. And honestly, while I appreciate the friends and family discount, I have no idea how this guy remains in business. Once we're done exploring the village of Thamasa, we're going to briefly head back to the cave in the Veldt, because although it seems like the only enemies you can meet there are toe cutters, there is a 7% chance of meeting a different enemy type, and if we wander around the cave for long enough, we should be able to meet a Rhyos. So let's see if we can find one of those elusive monsters. We're just going to stay here near the entrance. The monster encounter rates are the same throughout the cave, and there's a toe cutter, but we'll just skip ahead for a moment, and there's a Rhyos. The Rhyos may be rare, but it seems rather unremarkable. That is, unless it survives to its 4th turn, when it will suddenly go wild and start using an array of elemental attacks. Possible attacks like Gigavolt, Aqua Rake, Magnitude 8, Blizzard, Fireball, all kinda nasty stuff. So just make sure to defeat the Rhyos enemies quickly, and you won't have any problems. With that bit of business taken care of, we can now leave this mantis-infested cave behind, and although we rescued Shadow from the senior behemoth, we didn't actually get to recruit him to our team. So we're going to do that next, and it's really the easiest part of this quest. The key is that striker weapon that we found in the cave. If you missed it somehow, you're going to have to go back for it. We're going to take it to the Colosseum and wager it. And who are we going to have fight in the Colosseum for us? How about Umaro the Yeti? Even when we're not in the Colosseum, we don't have any control over Umaro, and he mostly just attacks, so he's one of the best choices for the Colosseum, and he's going to make getting Shadow back very easy. We'll equip him with the Hero Ring, and just for fun the Rage Ring, although that's not going to do anything for the Colosseum, and we'll head on inside. It's always a good idea to save before fighting in the Colosseum, although defeating Shadow is pretty easy. So we'll march right up to the man who stands in front of the double doors, we'll wager the striker, and we're going to choose Umaro as the one to do the fighting. Unfortunately for Shadow, he is completely unarmed and has no armor. So yeah, Umaro is going to crush this guy. 29 damage? That is laughable. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new champion, Umaro the Yeti! Shadow says he wants to see how far he can get here in the Colosseum, but after that beating, you better believe that when we go out to the Falcon, we'll find him on board. We actually get to keep the striker that we wagered, but we probably already have a better weapon that Shadow can use. From here, the next thing we're going to do is recruit Relm. And considering that Relm is his daughter, it would only be appropriate if Shadow came along. Although it is absolutely not required. You can make a party with any party members you want for this quest. This time we'll make a party that includes Shadow, we'll bring along Locke because he's still working on that cursed shield, we'll bring Terra because she's a powerhouse, and we'll bring Cyan because we just haven't seen enough Cyan yet. We'll need to rearrange some of our equipment, so we'll ask this old man to strip all of the gear from our other party members. Did you ever wonder how he does that? Is it some sort of magic spell? Is Celis just wearing a set of armor 1 second and then suddenly it just disappears? I'd like to know exactly how that works. I got questions. Shadow knows a handful of spells, but maybe if we give him the Ragnarok Esper, he can learn a few of the best ones quickly. And once we're all ready to go, we're going to land the airship right here near the city of Jidoor. We're not going to meet any random monster encounters in the main part of the city, but we will be visiting a dungeon quite soon, so be prepared to fight. But first, let's explore the city a little bit. This place doesn't look too worse for wear after the apocalypse. There's still beautiful pink flowers blooming, and everything looks very green. Well, I guess it pays to be a wealthy city. We'll check out the inn first, and if we talk to this guy near the counter, he has a useful tip. It seems that Doomgaze, a monster that you may run into while flying the airship, doesn't regain health between fights. That is useful information. And when we sleep at the inn, we see another of Shadow's dreams. This one is extremely ominous. Bram appears as a visitor in front of Clyde, surrounded by a sea of darkness. Clyde, I'm done for. Find me here. Please, Clyde. Find you where, Bram? What does it all mean? But we won't get any answers right now. Clyde just walks around, observing the dark surroundings. And finally, everything fades to black. If you're trying to see Shadow's dreams, just remember that you need to be staying at an inn that actually costs a decent amount of money. It won't work at the 1 gold piece inn in Thamasa or the free inn in Figaro Castle. This one in Jidoor definitely works, so you might want to start here. The weapon shop in town features a few nice items. You can buy another man-eater dirk here. We were able to find one in Daryl's tomb, but if you wanted another, you could purchase it now. And there are a few other nice weapons as well. Also in town, we can visit the item shop. And the item shop is nothing too exciting. It's a lot of the same items that we've seen in many other places. But if you'd like to purchase some warp stones, you can purchase them here. Many of the people around town mention a wealthy resident named Owzer, and it seems that Owzer has been purchasing a lot of art, especially art that evokes the end of the world, because that's what's popular right now. Before we go to Owzer's basement, do you remember how to do auction house manipulation? Because it still works here in the world of Ruin. We're going to equip the sprint shoes and quickly go in and out of the auction house, paying attention to which direction the woman with the blonde hair is moving as soon as she takes her first step when we go outside. We're looking for her to go down, then right, then up, and then left? If she does that pattern, we'll want to start an auction immediately afterwards. So that was down, right, and up, and left. That was it. So if we do an auction now, we should be able to bid on a hero ring. The hero ring, of course, is a powerful relic that powers up your physical and magical attacks. We have several of these right now, but we could always use another one. This one will cost us a pretty penny, so you will need to have 50,000 gold pieces if you want to win this auction. The 10,000 that we bid at first will not be enough. But this time, if we do have 50 grand, well, that will be enough to secure the relic. You'll only be able to buy 1 hero ring here at the auction house, just like we were only able to buy 1 golem and 1 Zoneseek Esper. Although, if you're interested in buying some Zephyr capes, you can purchase an infinite number of those at the auction house. Feeling good about our new purchase, we can head back outside and we'll take a look at the relic shop in town. You won't be able to buy any hero rings here, but they do sell cherub downs, and that's a relic that will permanently grant the float status while you're wearing it, so we will want to pick up a set of those eventually. For now though, let's head to the large mansion on the north side of town. It's dark in here, and when we try to ascend the stairs, a mysterious voice pushes us backwards. But that's when Owzer's diary appears. We can read it, although it's not mandatory. It will fill us in on what's going on, and it will give us a hint about what to do next. It seems that Owzer recently bought a stairway lamp. Maybe that could turn the lights on around here. Once you're done reading the diary, we'll flip the switch on the stairway lamp, and now we can freely go up the steps. We will have to fight a few battles up here, so we'll give Shadow a more appropriate relic. Whenever we look at this still life of flowers, suddenly we have to battle 3 nightshades, and this is a unique monster encounter. These plant monsters are weak against fire magic and absorb water. They are also immune to all statuses. Whenever you're fighting against the Nightshades, you need to watch out for their Entice attack, which can confuse your characters, and they also will try Poison Pod, which, as you may not be surprised, can poison one of your characters. If you're lucky, Locke can steal a rare Nutkin suit from one of these, which is a decent armor for Strago or Relm. It adds +7 to speed and +3 to magic. Not the worst. Most of the other paintings that we see in this room are a bit safer, although a lot of them are fairly mundane. A chamber pot? Yeah, I can see why Owzer was upset. This one of Emperor Gestahl is a very good likeness. If you talk to it twice, you'll get a clue about the location of the Phoenix Cave. And you may have heard a number of people talking about Emperor Gestahl's portrait, so that's why. After observing a breathtaking painting of a bucket and one of some armor, this one of a lovely lady attacks us. It's 2 Dawlings. Dawlings only appear in this one location, and they like to employ attacks that can blind or silence your party members, although blinding them doesn't do anything. This character's art was censored a bit. It originally had some smoke coming off of her peace pipe there, and although she may not be lit up here, that thing is enormous. That pipe is about as big as her forearm. I'm not sure what she's smoking out of that thing, but I'd wager a guess that it's probably not legal. Down here in the dark basement, we have to watch out for random monster encounters, and here's our first, a pair of Vinders. Vinders are floating birds that are weak against fire magic, and while they usually just use normal attacks, when left alone on the battlefield, there's a chance that they will use Beak, which can inflict Petrify. We all have ribbons now, so petrification is not a big concern for our current party, but if you don't have 4 ribbons, it may be something you need to worry about. As we walk down and around to the left, if we walk too close to this painting, it will pull us in and we will have to fight a soul dancer with 4 wild cats. The wild cats are weak against fire and water, and they'll mostly just use basic physical attacks. If you leave one alone on the battlefield though, it could use Fireball against the party. The Soul Dancer is weak against poison and is much more dangerous because it will throw weapons at us, so you'll definitely want to get rid of her first. And then a nice big fire too would be enough to finish off the remaining enemies. And that'll get us out of that painting trap, but you can avoid fighting those guys just by walking a little bit farther away as you go around the corner. Locke gained a level there, and he's up to 43 vigor now, even with the penalty that he's taking from the cursed shield. So that's a big -7 that he has to deal with. He still has respectable stats. Up here we'll find a Moogle suit, which is a reasonable armor for Relm and Strago, but the cool thing about it is when they are wearing it, they will look like a Moogle, so that's probably worth picking up just to see how they look wearing the suit. Here's a different configuration of monsters. We haven't seen Crushers yet. They're weak against fire magic, and they mostly just use physical attacks, although every second turn they have a 33% chance of using Blow, which deals 5x damage. Very scary. If left alone on the battlefield, a Crusher may also use the Life Shaver attack. With those enemies out of the way, we'll heal up the party, and then we can find a very interesting relic called the Relic Ring. The Relic Ring is hidden behind this wall, so you'll find it there, and it will make the wearer undead For better or for worse, they'll be very strong against poison or doom attacks, but it will make it a lot harder to heal them. The Relic Ring is not something that I use very often, but there are a few corner cases where it can be useful. And here we have the two vendors again. These guys are pretty weak. We're just going to hit them with a Fire 2 spell, and that is more than enough damage to get rid of both of them. We want to head through this door over here on the left and continue up, and that will take us to this room. The room with the liar chests. When you stand on one of the shadows underneath those floating chests, you'll have to fight a battle. Here we have to fight 4 wildcats and a soul dancer again. Definitely prioritize the soul dancer. Getting items thrown at you will deal some pretty big damage, but once you get the soul dancer out of the way, the wildcats are pretty easy to remove because they are weak against fire magic. So here's Terra with a nice big fire spell. She could use a more powerful fire spell like Fire 3, but it seems to be unnecessary. So this treasure chest says that there's 2,000 gold pieces inside, but that's not true. There was only 293 gold pieces inside. And here we'll fight another set of wildcats and a soul dancer, and whenever the chest drops out of the sky this time, it's going to tell us another lie. Oh, we got hit by a dirk there, which dealt some decent damage to Terra, but nothing that we won't be able to recover from. And let's see, it says that it's a potion, but that one was actually a tonic, so not as good as a potion. There are 2 more of these chests, and neither of them has a very exciting item inside, so if you want to skip these battles against the Soul Dancer and 4 wildcats, you can feel free to move on to the painting in the back of the room. But we will open the remaining chests just so you can see how they don't tell the truth, and then I can reveal what's actually inside. So we'll use Cyan's Dispatch. We actually got the Moogle suit that time, that is a rare steal. And Fire 2 finishes off the remaining cats. 3 magic points probably makes the battle worth it. It's pretty easy, and although that says it's an ether, it's actually a tincture, so much worse than an ether. I'm not sure if this is a mistake or if it's intentional, but it sort of feels intentional. The items that you actually get are just lesser versions of what you're told that you're getting, so it seems like they may have done this on purpose, although I'm not exactly sure why. This time we're fighting the Soul Dancer and the Wildcats, but we got a back attack, so that means we'll probably take a few more hits from the Soul Dancer before we'll be able to remove it. There's Terra's Fire 2, which will clear out the cats, no problem, and a nice big hit from the Illumina sword will be enough to finish off the Dancer. And with that, Cyan gained a level, and that is the last of the liar chests. It says that we got a remedy, but it was actually just a soft potion. Cyan leveled up, so we will remove the Bismarck Esper from him, and we'll give it to Shadow so that he can get +2 vigor when he levels up. Then we're going to touch this painting of the armor in the back, and that will trigger a battle with this still life. This is the only place in the game where you'll get to fight one of these. The still life is weak against fire magic, and it will try to poison or put our characters to sleep. Whenever you attack it with anything, it will counter with Condemned, which puts a countdown timer above your character's head. If that timer runs out, that character will die. But as long as we finish the fight quickly, we should have no problem defeating the still life. Once that monstrous painting is defeated, a door will appear, allowing us access to the back of the gallery. And back here, we'll find a save point, although it seems that we'll need to fight a pair of vendors before we can reach it. Luckily, these birds are very easy to defeat. With less than 1,000 hit points, almost anything that we hit them with should be enough to beat them. And now we can reach that save point. Although we should probably change Terra's Esper because she will be leveling up fairly soon. Locke is going to be leveling up soon, so we'll give Tri-Talk back to Shadow so that he can learn some powerful elemental spells, and we'll equip Bismarck to Locke so he can power up his Vigor. Now we can use a tent to restore our hit points and magic points, and you do not want to go in the first door here. That will take you way back earlier in the dungeon, and you'll have to go through this funhouse again. Instead, head through this door, which will take you to the boss. You just know when art is attacking people that somehow Relm must be involved. And there she is, painting a picture of some sort of demon. Owzer is nearby, and it looks like he's sitting on some sort of beanbag chair. It seems that a demon has possessed his painting of a goddess, so it's time to fight the boss, Chadarnook. Chadarnook is sort of two bosses, and they keep switching places from time to time. You only need to defeat the demon, and you can't really beat the goddess. Whenever you kill the goddess, it immediately respawns. So you really don't want to waste a lot of energy fighting the goddess, although sometimes you just need to start queuing up attacks against the goddess because the demon and the goddess trade places so quickly that you'll be queuing up attacks against the goddess that will eventually hit the demon. The demon is weak against fire and holy magic, and it absorbs lightning, so don't try to use any lightning-based attacks against this boss. If you have characters that know Fire 3, you are in very good shape, because there's a good chance that Fire 3 can deal the maximum damage of 9,999 against this guy. And in that case, it'll only take a few shots to defeat the demon. If you don't have Fire 3 or powerful magic like Ultima, this boss can be quite frustrating. However, it is possible to defeat it using the Vanish Doom trick. Although you won't be able to Vanish Doom against the goddess, although you can try, and I'll show you what happens if you use Vanish Doom against her. So there's the Vanish. You need to work very quickly to Vanish Doom the goddess at the beginning of the battle. Oftentimes she'll switch over to the demon before you'll get the Doom off. But as you can see here, after the Doom resolves, the goddess comes right back. So you'll need to wait for the demon to show up, and then you can use Vanish Doom on it, and that will be enough to defeat the boss. So we're going to use Vanish, and then we'll use Doom against the demon, and as long as he doesn't change back into the goddess before the Doom goes off, we will have won the fight. Now, I said that you can't beat the goddess using Vanish Doom, but remember earlier in the video when we used Vanish X Zone? Well, Vanish X Zone works perfectly against the goddess because when you use X Zone, it prevents the monster from using any death attacks, and that will keep the goddess from reviving. Once again, we need to work very quickly here, but if you can Vanish and then X Zone, that will be enough to clear the goddess and win the battle. The goddess may have seemed unkillable, but in this game, there's almost always a way. With Chadarnook defeated, Relm comes to her senses, but Owzer sure doesn't. He says that that picture is more valuable than his own life. But if you're wondering how a monster got into the picture in the first place, well, it all started when he bought a mysterious stone. And that stone is the Starlit Magicite. You'll find the Starlit Magicite on the right side of the bookshelf, and although it doesn't teach us any magic that we can't learn anywhere else, it does teach a nice variety of cure magics, and whenever you level up, it gives you a +2 bonus to stamina. We don't really prioritize stamina very much, but if you did want to build up a character's stamina, Starlit is the way to do it. Before we go, if you take a look at the table where Owzer's diary was, you can still read it, although it doesn't appear to be there. The diary is invisible. Yep, it's a little bit of a glitch, but a fun one. And once we've rescued Relm, it's time to leave Jidoor behind, so we'll head outside the city limits and return to the Falcon. Now that we have Relm back, there's only one character that we don't have yet, and that character is Strago. You may recall that Strago has been hanging out in front of the Tower of Fanatics, but we were unable to talk to him before. Now that we have Relm, however, she is the key to getting him back. So we're going to make a party that has Relm in it. It doesn't matter who the other characters are, as long as we have Relm. Once we have our party configured, we will hastily equip some gear, and then let's take a quick look at Relm's status. She's level 29 right now, and already has 52 magic power. Not bad. Then we're going to land the Falcon near the Tower of Fanatics, and whenever we go inside, Relm is going to immediately react to seeing Strago. She seems to be very surprised to see that he's still alive. You old fool? You're still standing? As soon as Strago sees Relm, he hilariously flies out of that line of fanatics and lands at the top of the stairs right next to her. Strago is also surprised to see that Relm is still alive, but she assures him that he will certainly kick the bucket before she does. It doesn't take much convincing from Relm to get Strago to join. She tells him to come along, and he tells us to make room for him. But of course, we are more than happy to have him back. And now that Strago has rejoined, the entire team is back together. Now we don't have to worry about leveling up anymore. The game is not going to assign any extra levels to our characters when they are not in the party anymore, so we can level up to our heart's desire. Now, before we start grinding levels and powering up our party, there are a few more quests that we may want to attend to. Number 1, the Demon Doomgaze is still at large and terrorizing the skies. So that's the next thing that we're going to take care of. It's time to put together a party to fight Doomgaze, and we may want to bring along Strago because he might just learn a lore or two from this boss. We have a lot of good equipment for Strago to use, including the Behemoth suit, and we'll manually equip the Force Shield to give him some good magic blocking. We're also going to bring along Celis because she's another powerful caster, and we'll equip her with the Minerva armor, which is always a good choice. For relics, we're going to emphasize Strago's magic abilities, so we will equip him with a pair of earrings, and we'll put it with a hero ring for maximum power. We'll do the same for Celis. So we'll also give her a hero ring, which will power up her magic and physical attacks, and a set of earrings which will add additional power to her magic. Once we finish assigning Espers to Strago and Celis, we will be ready to go. To find Doomgaze, we need to fly around the map, but we don't just want to fly around in circles. We want to fly around deliberately because Doomgaze is hiding in a specific spot on the map. That spot is determined at random, so we don't know where he is, but if we keep flying around in the same area, there's a good chance we'll never find him because he may be hiding somewhere else. So what we're going to do is just fly at a very slight angle so that we can try to cover as much of the map as possible. It can take a long time, so we skipped ahead here a little bit. But there he is. We finally found Doomgaze. Doomgaze can be very predictable. He always starts out with level 5 Doom, so if you have any characters that have a level that is an exact multiple of 5, you may not want to use them when fighting Doomgaze. Doomgaze is weak against fire and holy magic, and absorbs ice or poison magic. It's immune to all status ailments except for Vanish. As the name implies, Doomgaze often uses Doom magic against us, and it can also use Arrow, which will hit the entire party. That is a lore that Strago can learn. On Doomgaze's third turn, it will run away, and considering that it has 55,555 hit points, it's difficult to kill it in a single encounter. The good news, of course, is that any damage we deal to Doomgaze is permanent, and even after it escapes, it will not be healed whenever we fight it again. We learned the Arrow lore there, so that's nice, and after Doomgaze escapes, we don't want to start chasing it right away. Instead, it's a good idea to heal the party, and it may be a good idea to even stay somewhere where we can restore our hit points and magic points to full. There are a number of free places that we can stay, and right here we have Narshe, where we can use the classroom. Now, hopefully we won't hit any monsters when we're walking to the classroom, but even if we do, I'm sure we'll be fine. And we made it with no problem. There's the recovery spring, and now our party is ready for a rematch with Doomgaze. If you want to be extra conservative against Doomgaze, whenever you fight it, you can try to have one of your characters run away. Then, even if the remaining characters are defeated, the character that ran away will still be alive, and any damage that you dealt to Doomgaze will still be applied. Then you just need to heal your party and do it again. Of course, our party is very powerful, so we don't need to do anything like that. We'll just fight Doomgaze straight up. And we're going to fly at a slight angle again, trying to cover as much of the map at one time as we can. And there we've run into Doomgaze again. And as usual, he starts out with level 5 Doom. It didn't work last time, Doomgaze, and it's not gonna work this time either. Doomgaze can also use the Ice 3 spell, but really that's about all it does. Sometimes it uses Doom magic, sometimes it uses Arrow, occasionally it will use Ice 3 or use a basic attack, but after 3 rounds, this guy is going to run away. But hopefully we'll be able to defeat it this time. So we'll just keep using our most powerful fire magics. Terra has already morphed into her more powerful Esper form, and every time she launches Fire 3 at this guy, she deals the maximum damage of 9,999. So if everyone else can maybe take notes from what Terra's doing, we'll be able to defeat this boss no problem. And that's it. Doomgaze is defeated. Now you probably noticed that Doomgaze is not immune to the Vanish status. So yep, the Vanish Doom trick works against it. It seems rather ironic for Doomgaze to be killed by the Doom spell, but that's exactly what's going to happen here. After Doomgaze has been vanished, the Doom can't miss. And so it's very easy to defeat it in one encounter if you use that trick. Vanish X Zone will also work. So what's our reward for defeating Doomgaze? Well, the Bahamut Magicite popped out of its mouth. Bahamut only teaches one spell, Flare, but that's a powerful bit of non-elemental magic. The only real problem with the Flare spell is that it can be dodged by magic evasion. Bahamut's summon ability, called Sun Flare on the other hand, will hit all the enemies with non-elemental magic, and that one doesn't miss. So yes, that is a very powerful Esper, and it's pretty easy to get just by beating Doomgaze. It feels like we just left the city of Jidoor, but we have good reason for coming back. This is where they sell Cherub Downs. Cherub Downs will give our characters a permanent floating effect, and if we buy 4 of them, the next boss we're about to fight will be trivial to defeat. Now you may be thinking, why would we bother buying Cherub Downs when Float is just a spell that you can cast? You can cast it outside of battle, so you can prepare your entire party with the Float spell before you fight the boss. That sounds great in theory, but the next boss, the Dirt Dragon, has the ability to remove the Float status from our characters, but it is unable to remove the permanent float that the Cherub Down grants. So that's what we're doing next. We're gonna go fight a dragon. It may be a good idea to spend the night at an inn somewhere. We could save money by sleeping elsewhere, but this inn is right here, so for 250 gold pieces, that's probably a reasonable convenience. If you're tight on funds, I still recommend that you buy the Cherub Downs for this next battle. You can just sell them back later, and it'll be like you rented the 4 Cherub Downs for the price of 2. With everyone well rested and floating on air, we'll leave the city of Jidoor, return to the Falcon, and then we'll fly off for the Opera House, which is not very far away. We probably could have walked, but we have an airship, so why wouldn't we use it? Inside the old Opera House, it's nice to see that they're still carrying on after the whole end of the world thing. Nobody seems to be asking any questions about Setzer, the kidnapper of opera singers, and instead they're all worried about this dragon, which is smack in the middle of the stage. After talking to the impresario, we can head over here to the right side of the upper tier. This guy should get out of the way when we talk to him. He tells us not to press the wrong switch, and we'll press this one right here. The 3rd switch from the left is the one that will bring you on stage and face to face with the boss. The Dirt Dragon is an Earth-themed boss, and as such it uses a lot of Earth magic. However, it does still use basic attacks, so we're going to start the fight by casting Phantom's Fader Summon, which will give all of our characters the clear status, making us completely immune to the dragon's physical attacks. This boss is weak to wind and water magic, which is why we brought along Strago. Strago's arrow lure deals big damage to this boss, but if you don't have it, you could also try Aqua Rake. The boss has no protection from any elemental magics, and it is also not protected from sleep magic, so if you use sleep on the boss, that will stun it for at least a short time. Many of the dragon's earth spells that it can use won't hit your characters, but it will remove the clear shields, so eventually you'll start taking damage from the basic attacks, and it will try to use 50 Gs to make the party stop floating, but with the Cherub Downs, that just won't work. If you don't have Cherub Downs or maybe Gaia Gear armors, you could always use the Vanish Doom trick. Just like many other bosses in this game, the Dirt Dragon is vulnerable to the Vanish spell, which makes its immunity to doom not work. So we'll banish this guy and send him off to the Shadow Realm. See ya later, Dirt Dragon. Our reward for defeating this boss is the Magus Rod, which is a weapon for Strago, Relm, or Gungho. It has 168 battle power, but that's not what makes it interesting. It also adds +7 to your magic, so it'll juice up your spells. A very good weapon. So we're just gonna go ahead and equip that right now, and that'll bring Strago's magic power up to 55. It's nowhere near as high as Terra or Celis's magic power, but they started off with a lot more and have some pretty good gear for powering it up. We don't need those cherub downs anymore, so we can re-equip our normal relics. We'll put ribbons back on, or hero rings if we were already wearing a ribbon. Locke had to keep his ribbon on because of the cursed shield. And with that, only 4 dragons remain. With Strago back on the team, and now with a more powerful weapon, let's take him back home to Thamasa, where we can start a side quest to get his most powerful lore. To be able to do this quest, we'll need both Strago and Relm, so we'll change our party configuration. You could bring any other 2 characters. We'll bring along Shadow because, hey, he's family. And we'll also bring along Locke so he can hopefully keep uncursing that shield. This old man that has been living on the Falcon will magically unequip all of our other characters. Was this guy on the ship back when it was buried in the tomb? How long has he been here? Maybe Daryl paid this guy up front to take care of all of her equipment needs, and after the ship crashed and he survived, he continued to honor that commitment? I mean, I guess that's pretty good of him. It's also very possible that he's just on Setzer's payroll, but in any case, he's nice to have around because it would be a real pain to have to manually unequip all of our characters. We'll give Shadow the Genji gloves so that he can hit with 2 weapons, and we'll also equip Relm with some better stuff than what the Optimum suggests. We're going to be doing a full dungeon here, so we'll give her the Aegis shield for extra protection. Once everybody's ready to go, we will lift off and land at Thamasa. We'll touch down right near the city limits and pop on in. We've been to Thamasa recently, right after that whole cave in the Veldt thing, but we didn't have Strago or Relm then, so when we bring those 2 back to their old home, Relm immediately runs off. Strago wants to relax, but it seems that his old friend Gungho has been injured. We find Gungho in one of the beds in Strago's own house. I suppose that he could have been house sitting, or maybe he's been squatting here since the apocalypse. It seems that Strago and Gungho used to hunt exotic monsters together, but there was always one that they could never quite catch. The beast called Hidon. But it seems that Gungho finally tracked it down, but when he did, well, it was more than he bargained for. It pained Strago greatly to see his friend in such a frail condition, and after some convincing, he commits to avenging Gungho and hunting down the beast Hidon. Relm wants to join Strago, but he insists on doing this on his own. It's his obsession, not hers. But that obsession of his could easily slay him. Relm can't just sit idly by and let him die. Strago suggests that he has to go alone or the monster won't show itself. But that is completely false. You can bring a full party to Ebot's Rock, and it will be no problem. Hidon will definitely show up. I'm sure that because of that part of the story, a lot of people may have decided to solo Ebot's Rock Cave with Strago, but it's just not necessary. We'll stop over at the inn. It's such a good value that whenever we're in town, it's almost like we have to stay here. And once everyone has rested up, we'll leave the village of Thamasa and make our way to Ebot's Rock Cave. Ebot's Rock Cave used to be submerged under the sea, but after the world was rearranged, it's back up on the surface. This is probably why Strago was never able to find Hidon before. If only he had Gaul's diving helmet. Ebot's Rock Cave is just across the water, but we still need to fly there in our airship. And first it looks like we need to take care of 3 gloom shells. Gloom shells are weak against ice magic, so that's going to be our main way of defeating them. They have over 2,900 hit points, so you do need to hit them harder than you might think. A couple castings of Ice 2 should be enough, although Shadow instantly killed one of them with the Striker. The only thing you really have to worry about with those Gloom Shells is that on their second turn and every other turn after that, they do have a 1 in 3 chance of using the Rock attack, which could petrify one of your characters, assuming they're not all wearing ribbons. Back on the Falcon, we'll just quickly zip across the water and then we'll land in front of Ebot's Rock Cave. Let's head inside. This is a very interesting dungeon. Whenever you come in here, you'll find this treasure chest that tells you it is hungry. Very, very, very hungry, and it wants to eat coral. Well, you'll find coral hidden in the cave. It's the only item that you'll find in any of the chests around here. Keep track of how much coral you find. We need to give the treasure chest at least 22 pieces. If you give him fewer than that, you'll have to start over from 0. Here we have the first battle of the cave. 2 out of the 3 of these enemies are undead. Can you guess which ones? Well, it's the Hippocampus and the Opinicus. Those guys are weak against fire, holy, and healing magics, and it seems that Shadow used a Doom technique on the Hippocampus, and you can see how that played out. It immediately respawned. The Eland, on the other hand, that guy is not undead, and it is weak against lightning magic. It can do an attack that will try to muddle or confuse one of your characters. Okay, so maybe we shouldn't be using the Striker in this dungeon. We'll switch over to the Man-Eaters so that those undead enemies don't come back to life. We need to find the coral in this dungeon, and we just found 5 pieces, and anytime you touch one of these switches, you'll be taken to a new area in the cave. There are different monsters here in the save room, and they're the same ones that you'll meet at the entrance or where the hungry chest is, but in any of the other rooms, you'll face a different set of monsters. And before we can get this next chest, it seems that we've been attacked by a displayer. This mismatched pile of bones is definitely undead, so it's weak against fire and holy magic as well as healing, and it's strong against poison. Back in the cave, we'll open up that next chest to get our coral reward. And if you look at the map here, it seems like there's just a bunch of small rooms. But what's going on is the game is randomly assembling those smaller rooms to make larger ones. So it's almost like this dungeon is procedurally generated. This is a very modern feature for such an old game. So we're going to just keep wandering around looking for treasure chests and touching these switches, which will take us to different places, until we finally have 22 or more pieces of coral, And along the way, we'll have to fight some monsters, and here we have another displayer. Displayers are able to use the choke smoke ability, so if one of your characters falls in battle, it's possible for the displayer to reanimate it as a zombie. Look, I know that a displayer is an undead, but what was it when it was alive? It looks like it's 3 or more animals fused together with some sort of sea creature attached at the pelvis. Over here we'll find 2 more pieces of coral, which will bring our total to 16, and these 3 will bring our total up to 19. We need to get at least 22, and make sure not to feed the coral to the treasure chest until you have enough. You need to give it to him all at one time. It's a good idea to save anytime you come across the save room, just in case you accidentally feed the treasure chest too early. You could reset and go back to your last saved game. Okay, with these 3 pieces of coral, I think that we have enough, so we don't need that chest. We just need to keep going back until we find the hungry treasure chest. And here we have 2 Slatter enemies. Unlike their Ursus cousins that tried to rob us on Mount Zozo, the Slatters much prefer violence. They use basic attacks, and occasionally they will use choke, which is another physical attack. It just deals 50% extra damage. Slatters are weak against holy magic if you have a good source of that. Perhaps the bonus from the Illumina sword? In any case, we just need to find that hungry chest, and anytime you touch one of these teleporters, there's usually another teleporter nearby whenever you get to the next room, so just keep using the nearest teleporter and you'll eventually get to the room you're looking for. Alright, moment of truth. Do we have enough coral? Well, we're about to find out. Yep, the chest is stuffed, completely full. And whenever you see that message, that means it's going to move out of the way so that we can proceed forward to Hidon. Hidon appears as a green monster sprite, and although it's a different color, it's actually the same one that was used to represent Chupon whenever we fought him on the deck of the Blackjack. Hidon and his Hidonites will try to afflict your party with many different status ailments, so equip everyone with a ribbon if you have them. Hidon himself is a big undead that likes to use bio spells and can reanimate your dead characters with choke smoke to bring them back as zombies. The Hidonites, on the other hand, are all different. One of them is undead, but the other 3 are not, and they have different weaknesses, and they will try to hit your party with different status ailments. Although one of them is weak against all the elements, but will try to hit your party with a very strong physical attack. The most important thing about this battle is to make sure that Strago learns the Grand Train lore. And to do that, we need to clear out the 4 Hidonites, leaving Hidon alone on the battlefield. One of the best ways to do it is to start with the Tridazer, which will deal damage to most of the Hidonites, and then follow up with the Bahamut summon, which will deal non-elemental damage to all the targets, and will probably be enough to finish off all 4 Hidonites in one action. When all 4 are gone, watch for the boss to flash and make sure Strago is alive and not afflicted with any bad statuses. And there it is, Grand Train. Even if Grand Train killed Strago, he may still be able to learn it, assuming we're successful and win the battle. Once Hidon has used the Grand Train, hit it with your most powerful fire, holy, or healing magics, or even earth magics if you have access to something like that. This guy has over 25,000 hit points, but with spells like Fire 3, it really won't take long to finish this guy off. although we are running out of time on Locke's cursed shield, and he did hit the zeros. Oh, but didn't die. We actually won before the doom took effect. Wow, that was really close. You'll see when the battle ends that we learned the Grand Train lore, and there it is, and we also got a warp stone. Nice. Now we have to talk about the mantra glitch. Mantra is one of Sabin's blitzes, which is accomplished by pressing RLRLXY. It will heal our entire party, but we can use it as a weapon against an undead monster, and if there's only one undead monster on the battlefield, it's going to deal big damage. So we're going to start out the fight like we did before, clearing out the Hidonites by using Tridazer and Bahamut. Once they're all gone, we'll be able to learn Grand Train, and then it'll be time for the trick. So we're going to have Locke cast Muddle on Sabin, and then we're going to quickly key in the Mantra Blitz before the Muddle spell takes effect. So that's what we did here. Now, assuming that the Muddle hits, it can miss, so be careful not to have Sabin equipped with anything that will stop him from being confused. It will make the Mantra hit the enemy, and because Hidon is undead, he took big damage from it. Almost 10,000. Now, we had scheduled Strago to hit Sabin to kill him, and we had Life 2 queued up from Locke to bring him back to life, but Hidon killed Sabin anyways, so now we can try to execute the trick a second time. This will hopefully deal enough damage to win the battle. So target Sabin with Muddle, activate the Mantra Blitz, and yes, the confusion took effect, and here it is. Another 9,999 damage to Hidon, and this time, it was enough to win the fight. Now that trick is probably a little bit more elaborate than necessary, because considering that Hidon is an undead, you can easily defeat this monster simply by using a Revivify. Revivifies don't miss. You could use something like a Phoenix Down. There are other things you could try, but Revivify is the best one. And once he has been revivified, Hidon immediately dies. But don't do that, because now he didn't use Grand Train, and that was the entire point of the battle. Also, if you're really lucky, Locke can steal a Thornlet from Hidon, which is a strange helmet that actually deals you damage when you wear it. It's an interesting one. After defeating Hidon and hopefully learning the Grand Train lore, Strago will return to Thamasa to tell Gungho about his accomplishment. It's worth noting, if you did mess up and did not get the Grand Train lore, every once in a while when you return to Thamasa and talk to Gungho, he will tell you that Hidon has returned, and then you can go back and fight him again. So if you need to fight him a second time, just keep leaving the town and coming back, talking to Gungho, and hopefully he will eventually tell you that Hidon is back. Gungho seems to be in good condition considering he was mauled by a monster. And that evening, Strago tells the story of how he defeated the horrible monster. I stared Hidon straight in the eye, lifted my staff and let him have it. Kapow, thwack, crash. Later that evening, Gungho meets with Relm outside of the house. It seems that this entire thing was a ruse that the two concocted together. Now, wait a minute. When did they have time to plan out this elaborate plot? I mean, until about 15 minutes ago, Relm thought that Strago was dead. We just found him outside of the Tower of Fanatics. And before that, she had been doing a ton of work in Owzer's basement. I mean, when did they put this all together? Well, regardless of how they did it, Strago now has his mojo back, and we learned the Grand Train lore. So we accomplished our mission. We'll spend the night over in the Value Thamasa Inn, and in the morning, we'll pack up and depart the village. As we head out, we can say goodbye to the small town of Thamasa. We probably won't need to come back here for anything, at least not until Kefka is finally defeated. And with that, we will return to the Falcon, and well, it looks like we hit a set of enemies first. We've seen the Gloom Shell before, but this time it brought along a Prussian bear friend. The Prussian is similar to the bears that we saw in Ebot's Rock Cave in that it just does attacks, although its special attack, Bear Hug, deals 3x damage. Let's try out that Grand Train lore. Grand Train costs 64 magic points and has a spell power of 84, but it hits all enemies for non-elemental damage and ignores magic defense. It's also one of the only ways you can kill your enemies using a screensaver from Windows 95. With Grand Train in our repertoire, we could move on, but we didn't meet all of the enemies in Ebot's Rock Cave. The ones that we haven't seen yet would be found here in the entrance or in the room with the hungry chest, and by a stroke of luck, we hit them on the first try. We've seen the Elans before, but the Warlock is weak against lightning and poison, and on each of its turns, it has a 66% chance of trying to steal your magic points. So that guy's kind of annoying. He also may try to use a holy spell on us, or as it's called in this game, Pearl. The Clucks are some sort of chicken lizard, and those guys mostly just attack, but occasionally will try to lick our party members, which could inflict them with the petrification status. The real danger of the Clucks is if you leave one alone on the battlefield, it may use Quake, which could hit our whole party. So we'll make sure to get rid of the Clucks first, just leaving the Elans. The Elan's stench attack can confuse our party members, but we're all wearing ribbons, so that's nothing to worry about. Those guys are weak against lightning, so a big shot of Bolt 2 was enough to finish the fight. And that's all we needed to do here in Ebot's Rock Cave. Let's get back to the Falcon. Our next quest is going to take us inside Cyan's dreams. But before we get involved in anyone else's dreams, let's finish up Shadow's dreams once and for all. After checking FinalFantasyHotels.com, I noticed that Nakia has an inn that's only 150 gold pieces per night, and they have very good mattresses. This is the perfect place to experience the rest of Shadow's dreams, although you may have to stay at the inn several times before they start popping up. Shadow's last few dreams are very interesting. They also get dark, so buckle up. It seems that Clyde and Baram stole 1,000,000 gold pieces, and Baram suggests that they change their name to Shadow. So that's where the name came from. The great train robbers of the century. Shadow. If that's the last dream you ever saw, you would think that Shadow's story ended on a high note, but no. The next one is a little bit different. So we'll go to sleep again and we'll see if we get a dream. Yes, we did. And this time it seems Baram is bleeding? Yeah, Clyde's friend is very wounded, but they're close to a town. I wonder which town it is. Baram knows that in his condition, he will only slow Clyde down, and the authorities are closing in. But before Clyde leaves, Relm makes one final request. Before you go, you have to use your knife. Think of what they'll do to me if I get caught. What is the penalty for stealing 1,000,000 gold pieces in this world? Apparently, it is something awful, but Clyde can't do it. He apologizes for his cowardice and runs away. Well, that dream definitely took a turn. But what happened to the money? 1,000,000 gold pieces? How would you even carry that many? There's one more dream, but it doesn't provide any answers about the missing cash. But it does provide answers about something else. Tired and slightly injured from evading the authorities, Clyde makes his way to Thamasa. He bumps into Interceptor as he enters town, and then a woman approaches him. She tells Clyde that he's in Thamasa and to hang in there. And with that, the final piece falls into place, because that woman is Relm's mother. There are a lot of dreams in this game, but shadows are among the most interesting. We can stay at the inn again, but that was the last dream for now. Tonight, we'll simply sleep. Now, we have a lot more sleeping to do, but we're not going to do it here in the town of Nikia. Nope, we're going to leave this town behind and make our way to Doma Castle. So we'll head out of the city limits and we will take off in the Falcon. We parked nice and close to the city this time so we wouldn't bump into any monsters. Before we go into Doma Castle, we'll need to change up our party. It is critical that we bring along Cyan. Where is Cyan, by the way? You can change your party by talking to any of the characters, but Cyan likes to hang out down here in the engine room. I guess he's not intimidated by machines anymore. You can choose any 3 other characters to go along with Cyan here, but keep in mind that we will not be able to use Cyan once we get into the dream. The other 3 are going to have to complete this dungeon by themselves. We'll meet a number of unique enemies in the dream, so we'll bring along Strago in case he might learn a few lores. And we'll re-equip a few of our characters and also change around some Espers. We'll also make sure to give an Esper to Cyan since he didn't have one currently equipped. And for relics, we'll give him the Genji glove and one of our ribbons. We have some nice weapons for Cyan, but you're going to want to change around his armor. The optimum is not always the best. So we have good news and bad news about Doma Castle. The good news is there's a free place where we can spend the night here. The bad news is the castle was more haunted than the Overlook, probably because of all the people that died here when Kefka poisoned the water. Now, like many other haunted establishments, most of the time when you stay here, nothing actually happens. But if you bring Cyan and sleep here, well, there will definitely be a haunting tonight. Everything seems completely normal at first, but when the party wakes up in the morning, Cyan doesn't get out of bed. Well, that's kind of strange. Every other time, the entire party would wake up at the exact same time, like clockwork. And well, there's the problem. The Dream Stooges. Curly, Larry, and Mo. These 3 little demons make it very clear that they're taking Cyan's soul, and if we want to battle them for it, we're going to have to do it Inception style by entering Cyan's dreams. When we get into the dream, we'll find that the party has been scattered and now we only have one character. This time, it's Strago, so we'll have to make do with just him. Our first order of business is to get Locke and Shadow back, and when you see those 3 doors next to each other, take the leftmost one, and you'll enter a room where we'll find Locke. We didn't get Locke back just yet, so it's going to be up to Strago to take on this Critic and Barbie by himself. The Barbie is weak against poison and likes to use attacks that will cause the Imp or Silence status. Now, Love Token is an interesting one. Love Token will make the target cover the Barbie, so if anyone tries to do a physical attack, your character will jump in front of it. It doesn't really matter if you're fighting with magic, but it could be obnoxious if we had more characters here. The Critic uses a number of lures that we can learn, including level ? Pearl, which we actually got right there. So now we will get Locke back, and he has been added to the party. And to get our third character, head through this door, and then we're going to climb these stairs to the door labeled B on the map. And if you're looking at the map, wherever you see a red letter, that's where one of the doors takes you, but you can't just go back through it. Door C is the one that we need here, and we will head down this way to get back Shadow. Now we have all 3 of our characters, and you need them all before you can challenge the boss of this sub-area. Here we have a Critic and 3 Pandoras. Pandoras, believe it or not, are undead, so they're weak against fire, holy, and healing, and they will absorb poison. Interceptor just annihilated that Critic, and the Pandoras will occasionally use Evil Toot, which can inflict all sorts of status abnormalities, and occasionally they use Revenge, which is a lore that Strago can learn. Strago didn't learn any lures from that battle, but he did level up, so let's take a look at everyone's status. Strago's up to 57 magic power, and Shadow's up to 54 vigor. So now we can change Strago's Esper, we'll switch him over to Bahamut, and we will switch Shadow over to Bismarck, because he's going to be leveling up next. Here we have the Critic and the Pandoras again. One interesting thing about the Critic is if you took the Ragnarok Esper instead of the sword, you could try to metamorph the Critic, and there's a 25% chance that you would get a pod bracelet, which is a rare and useful relic. Well, I guess it's not terribly rare if you use metamorph on those enemies, but it would be otherwise. If you have all 3 characters and you try to go through the door here, you'll face the Dream Stooges. It's time for a boss. Of the 3, Curly is the healer, so we want to get rid of him first. And he just used Pearl Wind, which is a lore that Strago can learn, and a pretty good one too. Curly is weak against ice and water and absorbs fire magic, but be careful, if you hit him with 4 spells and he doesn't die, he will cast Reflect on himself, so if you have another spell queued up, it might be coming back at you. Curly has about 15,000 health, so unfortunately, he's also the hardest one to kill. Once we get him out of the way though, we're going to focus on Larry. Larry will run away after taking 4 attacks if one of the other Stooges is gone. Using Bahamut's summon is a pretty good idea. It is non-elemental damage, so it's going to hit these guys pretty hard and ignore all of their different weaknesses and immunities. Larry is weak against fire magic and absorbs ice or wind, so he's sort of like the opposite of Curly. Now only Mo remains. He has no special weaknesses, but he does absorb lightning magic, so don't use that on him. After he takes 4 hits, he will cast Reflect on himself, but the joke's on you, Mo, because Strago's lures can't be reflected. We could use Grand Train here, but I think Stone will actually be enough. And with a blast of Bolt 2, Mo is gone. Now that was the typical way of fighting these guys, but there's a more interesting strategy we can use. We're going to start by casting Reflect on Curly, which will change his behavior slightly. Then we're going to focus all of our attacks on Mo. Mo doesn't have a ton of health, so we should be able to kill him fairly easily. Once Mo is defeated, we're going to try to hit Larry 4 times, but we don't want to actually kill him. We want to trigger his running away, so we can hit him with attacks that are a little bit less powerful, like Tier 1 elemental spells. That may be a good way to go. Really, any 4 attacks that don't kill Larry will be fine. Strago just did one that hit him pretty hard, so the next few need to be a little bit softer. Curly is trying to reflect magic at us now because of that reflect shield, and a Fire 1 spell against Larry is more of the type of damage we're trying to do here. And here's one from Locke, which deals over 1,000, not bad. And then a strike from Strago is enough to trigger the escape. Now, Curly wants to revive the other Stooges, but he always revives Larry first. But you see, Larry's not dead. He ran away. So whenever Curly uses Life 2, Larry doesn't come back. So he just keeps using Life 2 and it doesn't do anything. Now, Larry will eventually return, so we do need to kill Curly. We dispelled Curly's Reflect Shield, but by this point it may have worn off already. Either way, Ice Magic is one of the best ways to defeat him. But you can see he doesn't really do anything when he's trying to revive the other Stooges, and he's unable to, because Larry is a coward. Now hold on, before we go deeper into the dream, we haven't seen the Allosaurus enemy, and it's possible to miss that guy if we don't see him in this part of the dream. So we're going to stay here until one of them appears, and here's an Allosaurus with 3 parasites, another enemy that we haven't seen yet. The Allosaurus is weak against fire and holy, but it's not undead. It also starts the battle poisoned and will try to poison you. So I guess it's transferring the poison over. The parasites are weak against fire. The parasites don't have a lot of hit points, but if they live long enough, they may try to stop your party members, and sometimes they counterattack with Gigavolt. So watch out for those guys. Now that we've seen all the enemies in that part of the dream, we can head through the door, and we're on the Phantom Train again? Oh no, I really don't want to go over to the other side. We'll use a tent at this save point to restore our hit points and magic points, and then we should save the game. It seems that we have no choice. We must brave the Phantom Train again. So we'll start heading to the left. You can encounter enemies in this car, and we have. It's 2 Rainmans. Well, is it Rainmans or Rainmen? In any case, these guys are weak against ice, holy, and water, so send your best ice attacks their way. With those guys defeated, we will continue heading left across the train. As we enter this car, Cyan follows behind, chased by a ghost. Now, this area is a little bit different than the original Phantom Train. There's a bunch of these switches that move things around, and we'll need to use them to navigate this area. This obnoxious treasure chest won't let you get past it, and when you flip this switch, you'll notice that some of the chests below it close. But here we have 2 Rainmen again. There's a 1 in 3 chance that these guys will use Brawler on their first turn, which is an attack that can inflict sleep. If these guys live to their second turn, there's a 66% chance they will use Flash Rain, which will hit the entire party with ice water type damage. So you want to take those out fast. We will equip Locke with Bismarck to power up his vigor whenever he levels. And this book says we should memorize the positions. I think it's talking about that array of treasure chests. In the chest on the far left, we find a rare item, a lump of metal. And what should we use that for? Well, if we put it into this chest, it'll stop moving around, and we'll be able to collect the flame shield behind it. These 3 chests are empty, and they are just there so that you can see the pattern. So remember what they look like, and make your way into this car. And as we go around this table, we have 2 Rainmen again, and this time we have them in a side attack. Now I promise there are other possible enemies that you could face here on the train. We're just getting a bunch of Rainmen for some reason. When you leave a Rainman alone on the battlefield, there's a chance that it will use Bolt 3, so watch out for that. So what do we need to do here? Well, if we flip this switch, we can move that seat, and down here we'll find a chest containing an X potion. As we head over to the left, uh-oh, must be time for Wapner, because there's 2 more Rainmen for us to fight. So don't count any cards, just send these guys back to Kmart. And this time we got hit by the Bolt 3 because that guy was left alone on the battlefield. This Ice 3 will finish him off. See you later, Raymond. The chest that we were heading towards down here on the left contains an ice shield, so that's a good item to pick up. And as we head up here, well, it's 2 more Rainmen. They just never stop, and this time they have us trapped in a pincer attack. One of them tried to use Brawler, but we have ribbons equipped, so it was unable to put our characters to sleep. Hopefully this Ice 2 from Strago will be enough to win the battle before that guy can cast Bolt 3 on us, and it was, and also, Locke gained a level. Pretty good. Now we're going to head over here where we can hit this switch, and that moves those 2 crates around. Now that seat that we moved at the beginning, that's in the wrong place now. We should have left it alone and hit this switch instead. And here we have, yep, 2 more Rainmen. You know what to do by now. Hit them with the ice magic, or maybe switch it up a little bit and hit them with water magic. Or just beat them down with melee attacks. They only have around 2,700 hit points, so you really can't go wrong. After a bit of celebration, we should probably switch over Locke's Esper. He doesn't need Bismarck anymore. He definitely knows all of those spells. So we'll put him back on Tritalk, and we'll take a look at his status. Back up to 47 Vigor, even with the Cursed Shield penalty. And let's change Strago's Esper over to Zone Seek so that he can get a magic point boost whenever he levels up. Over here, we'll flip this switch again, and then we'll go back to the left where we can hit this switch, which will move those crates. And then we should be able to get around, and we'll head down across the bottom to the left. Here we have 2 more Rainmen, but there's a samurai this time. Oh, right, a different enemy. Let's talk about the samurai. It's weak against poison, and if it were to survive until its second turn, it has a 33% chance of using the fatal attack, which is an instant death attack and can kill one of our party members. Otherwise, it usually just uses basic physical attacks. So you'll want to get rid of that guy quite quickly, and then you can clean up the Rainmen afterwards. We're going to heal the party. We can have Shadow do it. He has plenty of magic points to spare. And then we'll head over here where we need to close 3 treasure chests and recreate that pattern that we saw in the previous car. Then we'll flip the switch, and if you did it correctly, the door on the left will open. And once you get out here, there's no more monster encounters on the train, so you can breathe a little sigh of relief. We can also use a tent and save the game in this room, so we'll take advantage of that. But we are not done with Cyan's dream just yet. Luckily, we don't have to fight the phantom train, although maybe that would be fun. We're much more powerful now than when we fought it the first time. And if you just go in and out of the engine room, you'll emerge in this cave. And you'll be wearing Magitech armor. This looks a lot like the mines in Narshe, and these Magitech armors are going to make this part quite easy, at least as far as combat is concerned. And here's our first battle now. We have a Pluto armor and a Sky Cap. The Sky Cap is the one with the propellers, and that guy is weak against lightning, water, and wind, so the Bolt Beam will do very well against it. The Pluto armor is weak against lightning and water, so Bolt Beams will work well against it as well. Honestly, all the beams are pretty powerful here, so even if you didn't use the Bolt Beam, the other ones would probably be strong enough to get the job done. And we will change our Espers now that Strago leveled up. We'll give him back Bahamut and take off Zone Seek, and now his magic power's up to 49. We'll take a look at our other characters to see how they are doing, and then we'll continue across to the right. This part of the dream can be very frustrating if you don't know what you're doing. Head up into this cave, and it seems that we've hit another monster. This one is an Io. Io's crush attack deals 3 times its normal damage, but it doesn't really do a normal attack ever, so there's not much to compare it to. This thing is weak against holy, lightning, or water, and it has a resistance to poison, which is something to keep in mind if Terra is in your party, because she has some different Magitech abilities that the others don't have. From here, you don't actually want to continue in this cave. Instead, we want to go back out the same way that we came. By doing that, we'll actually appear in a different area, and whenever we cross this bridge, we'll be taken back to the castle. If you would have continued in that smaller cave, you would have ended up back at the beginning of that area, and you would have had to loop through again. But now that we're back in the castle, we see a vision of Cyan's wife and child. They implore us to save Cyan's soul. They may just be manifestations in his own mind, but they know what's going on. Cyan continues to torture himself. He failed to defend Doma, and the world is dying. And so a beast named Rexsoul is taking advantage of him. Rexsoul is a composite monster formed from the restless souls of those who died in meaningless wars. So yeah, that guy is dangerous. We'll use a tent and save the game up here, because we'll have to fight a boss quite soon. There could be a few more monster encounters on the way to Rexsoul, so after saving the game, we'll steel our nerves and make our way out of the bedroom. But first, it's raining men! Hallelujah! Well, we got a preemptive attack against the Rain Men this time, and we know what to do against these guys. We've defeated so many of them at this point. They brought along the Samurai again, so we used our Bio spell to quickly remove him, and after a little bit of ice magic, the last Rain Man goes down, and we'll be able to continue with our quest. Strago also learned Flare there, and that's the only spell that the Ragnarok Esper can teach him, so we're going to switch him over to something else. Phantom might be good for him. We're going to want to use Phantom anyways as part of our strategy for fighting the next boss, so it's probably a good idea to equip it now. Before going into Rexol's room, head over to the room on the right, where we'll see this scene between Cyan and his wife. In this touching memory, Cyan recalls the first time that he told his wife that he loves her. "I loveth you," he says, in that way that only Cyan can. "I loveth you more than anything." Little Owain, who had been hiding in the bed, saw the whole thing. Papa loves Mama. He couldn't be more happy. As we walk away, it's only appropriate that 2 more Rainmen appear to rain on our parade. That one tried to use Unibrawler, but it's no use. We're using the ribbon, and a nice big hit from the Illumina sword, and a follow-up from Strago with an Ice 2 spell will be more than enough to clear them out. Shadow leveled up this time, bringing him up to level 32. We'll switch him over to the Ragnarok Esper, and when we look at his status, he's already up to 58 Vigor. That happened rather quickly. Before we go to the boss room and put an end to this nightmare, there is one enemy type that we haven't seen yet, and you won't be able to find a Soriander anywhere else, so we really need to encounter one before we finish this dream. Sorianders appear in 2 different monster configurations here in this part of the castle, so there is a 37% chance of any encounter including a Soriander. Hopefully it will not take too long to find one, although it's been nothing but Rainmen for most of the way here. And here are a few more of those Rainmen, so let's just skip ahead until we actually find a Soriander, and here we have one. A Soriander with a Samurai and a Barbie. Sorianders are weak against holy magic, and could counterattack by sneezing one of your party members out of the battle. On their first turn, they have a 1 in 3 chance of using Yawn, which can inflict the sleep status. This is also only the second time that we saw a Barbie, which is another one of those party girls that has a big pipe with her. And I'm not sure why she brought a pipe to battle when the rest of us brought swords. Let that be a lesson to you kids. Crack is whack. This is the boss's room, but before we get too close to Rexol, we want to do a little bit of preparation. Try to find a random monster encounter so that we can cast the Phantom Summon. And of course, when we're not looking for one, we hit a Soriander, but we're just going to cast Phantom, and then we want to immediately run away after it takes effect. So here is Fader. That's going to grant our characters the clear status. And then we're going to run away, keeping that clear status intact. Hopefully. Come on, Strago. Come on, buddy, you can do it. Run away. Alright, we did it. Now you might be thinking, this next boss probably uses a lot of physical attacks, so the clear status will be very helpful. But no, that's not why we did it. You'll see here in a moment the exact reason why we needed to start with the clear status. Rexol begins the battle by possessing one of our characters. But which character was possessed? Well, it's the one that you can see now. As soon as one of your 3 characters becomes visible, you'll know that's the one that got possessed by Rexol. To make the boss appear, we need to kill the possessed character. It would also work to just petrify the possessed character, and that might sound like it would be better, but our characters are equipped with ribbons, so that's not going to work. Once the boss appears, it will cast Reflect on the Soul Savers, and then it's going to start trying to bounce lightning spells off of them. Don't worry about the Soul Savers, just focus on Rexsoul. It's weak against ice magic, so that's something that you could use, and you only have a limited amount of time before Rexsoul possesses another one of your characters. Another problem here is that because Rexsoul is using magic against our characters, the clear status will probably be removed before it possesses one of our characters again, so the second time, we may have to just figure out which character is possessed by systematically killing them off. Zinger is the name of the possession attack, and it's not Shadow. Shadow maintained his clear status and did not lose it whenever Rexsoul used Zinger, so we know it has to be either Strago or Locke again. We'll start by knocking off Strago. He's probably easier to kill anyways. Those Soul Savers will cure Rexsoul whenever he's on screen, and whenever he's not, they'll use powerful elemental magic against us. But don't worry about those guys, because even if you were to kill one of them, it will automatically respawn, so there's really no point. We killed Strago and Rexsoul did not appear, so that means Strago was not the one who was possessed. We're going to heal him, and now we know from process of elimination that it must be Locke. So we're going to have to beat him up. Sorry buddy, nothing personal here. We just need to get the Rexsoul out of you. Once we beat the demon out of this guy, we really gotta take out Rexsoul this time, because if he possesses one of our characters again, none of them have the clear status this time, so it's going to make it even harder to figure out who we need to kill. Alright, Locke is back alive. We just got a good hit on Rexsoul from Shadow, and now Locke can cure himself, and we can... oh no. Yep, we got possessed again, and now it could be any of our three characters. Well, Shadow has the fewest hit points. Let's start by attacking him. Well, this time he blocked one of the hits, which is kind of funny, because he was attacking himself. How did he do that? Oh, it was Shadow. Alright, Rexsoul is back. Use your ice magic and do anything you can to finish him off. We can use Life 2 to bring back Shadow, but we can't waste any time here. We don't want him to use that Zinger again. Alright, Shadow's back in there. And now we'll just focus on Rexsoul. Ice 2 should do the trick. Make sure not to use it on one of the Soul Savers or it's going to bounce back at us. Alright, this time we restored the Reflect Shield. And we hit the boss again. And that's it! Rexsoul has been defeated. Now, this boss can be kind of difficult, especially when you're trying to figure out which of your characters is possessed, but there is a much easier way to beat this guy. Because the Soul Savers automatically respawn when they die, you can't normally kill them. But if you use X-Zone, which they are not immune to, there's a possibility that they will both be killed and their respawn ability will be cancelled out. So you may be able to win this one with a single casting of X-Zone. So if you're having trouble, give that a try. With Rexsoul defeated, Cyan finally has the strength and courage to come to grips with his own suffering. Elaine and Owain appear before him. "Thank you, my love," Elaine says. And Owain says that Papa is strong. But Cyan doesn't believe it. "No," he says. "I didn't do anything. Then, and I can't now. I'm a man with no honor." But Elaine tells him no. He has entirely too much. And we all know that's true. There's really no one more honorable in this entire world than Cyan Garramonde. Of course, we could have told him that so many times, and it would have never sunk in. He needed to hear it from Elaine. My beloved, she says, will always be together. And in his memories, they will be. With a bright flash of light, they're gone. But they promise that they will always be by his side. And suddenly, a sword appears. Cyan draws nearer to the sword, and as he takes it into his hand, the dream comes to an end. Our reward for completing this is that Cyan will learn his highest level sword tech. But that's not all. He will also learn all of his other sword techs, so if you want to use any of the ones in between, you totally can. Cyan's swordsmanship reached its peak level of skill, and when we look at his menu, you'll see that they're all there. Slash, Empower, Stunner, Quadra Slice, and Cleave. So we'll have to give those a try in a few moments, but before we leave the castle, there's another thing that we can find now. It's a piece of magicite. Upon the throne in the king's room, we'll find the Alexander Esper. Alexander is the only Esper that teaches the Pearl magic, which it teaches at a ×2 rate, although Terra will learn it naturally at level 57. Alexander also provides us a fast route to learning Remedy, Dispel, Shell, and Safe, and when used as a summon, the spell is called Justice, and it has battle power of 114, a magic cost of 90 MP, but it will hit all the enemies on the battlefield with a holy type attack. Cyan's dream is a long side quest, but to get a good Esper and learn all of his sword techs, it's almost certainly worth it. Back at the Colosseum, we could upgrade one of Cyan's weapons by wagering it. The Aura is a fairly mediocre katana. We already have the more powerful Strato, and we would love to have a second one. We're going to bring a party that includes Terra here. I think that Terra should be able to easily get the job done because she can wear the Minerva armor. And that will make her very well suited to win this next battle. We'll give her the Illumina sword too, because why not? And we'll also equip her with the Thunder Shield. If you can't use the Minerva armor, the Thunder Shield could work in a pinch. We'll also give Terra a Hero Ring and a Hyper Wrist to power up her attacks. And that should be a great set of equipment for winning this next fairly easy Colosseum battle. Now, by the nature of the Colosseum, this battle is quite random, so it is a good idea to save the game first. None of these battles are foolproof, especially when you're using a character like Terra. She might just cast a bunch of pointless spells instead of actually attacking. You never know. The enemy that we're going to be up against here is the Rhyos, which is the rare encounter from the cave in the Veldt. Of course, the enemies behave differently in the Colosseum than they do in the wild. They use a lot of the attacks that you can select when using Relm's control. Like in the wild, the Rhyos would have never started the battle by using Flare Star, but of course the Minerva armor prevented all of the damage there. And it looks like Terra decided to morph. Interesting choice. We'll see how that plays out. And here's Arrow, which does, well, 0 damage because of the Minerva armor. Now, as long as Terra actually attacks here, we should be able to win this one no problem. The prize for winning here is the Strago, which is the second most powerful katana in the game. The Sky Render is the best one. We already have a Strago, but we often have Cyan wielding 2 weapons, so having a second weapon with 199 power is pretty good. There's still a lot more that we need to do here at the Colosseum, so we'll have to come back to it later. The next thing that we're going to do is another side quest, and this one is the Ancient Castle. There's a ton of good treasure there, so we're going to make a party that has Cyan, Locke, Shadow, and Strago. Strago can learn some lores at the Ancient Castle, so we probably want to bring him, and Locke may be able to steal some good stuff, but you can really choose whichever characters you want for this one. We'll give Locke back the Illumina sword to mitigate more of the effects of the cursed shield that he still bears. And we just got a second Strago katana, so we will equip Cyan with the Genji glove. That way we'll get a little bit of use out of it. So we have double Strago, and we're going to give him the Force armor. Looks pretty good. Now, if you're looking at the map and wondering, where is this ancient castle? Well, that's only the left half of the map, but the ancient castle doesn't appear on any of the maps because it's under the ground. And how can we get under the ground? Well, with a magical castle that can dig under the surface. So we're going to touch down as close to Figaro Castle as the desert will allow us, and whenever we get inside, we're going to ask the old man in the basement to move the castle for us. I don't think Edgar will mind. Now, if you've been moving the castle around in the world of Ruin, you may have noticed that it often gets stuck halfway through its journey, and the old man says that there's something odd about this stratum. You can continue on, but if you stop and explore, you won't be able to go outside, but down here in the prison, we can use the same entrance that we used to get in from the South Figaro cave. That'll take us to the ancient castle, but we don't have time for that in this episode, because it's time to talk about General Leo. To get General Leo, we're going to do a variation on the early airship trick. Instead of saving the game the first time we get to the world map, we're going to play the game a little bit farther, to the part where Edgar meets Kefka for the first time. As soon as Kefka walks away, we'll be in control of Edgar by himself. Walk outside and save the game. Now we need to play all the way to the floating continent without saving the game again, dying, or turning the power off. This can be easier said than done, so it's highly recommended that you level your characters up at the Leet River. Work your way to the center of the floating continent until you have the opportunity to return to the airship. Do it. When you get back to the airship, fly around for just a few moments. You don't have to do it very long, just move a little bit. Then return to the floating continent. You'll choose a party of 3 characters, and once you get there, all you need to do is die. So our party will get annihilated, and we will return to the last time that we saved, which was back at Figaro Castle. So Edgar's the last one left alive, Terra's a statue so she doesn't count, and he succumbs to the poison. Annihilated. Whenever we respawn, we will be Edgar by himself, piloting an airship. We'll also be back at the beginning of the game. Now make sure you don't land this airship just anywhere. As soon as it touches down, it's going to disappear. You need to take it somewhere that has access to the city of Zozo. Edgar will have to complete the events at Zozo by himself, so it is recommended that you stop over here by the site of the future Colosseum so that he can grab a hero ring. The hero ring will make this a good bit easier, and there's a chocobo stable right outside. So we'll head up into the forest after equipping that hero ring. Make sure to put it on. It's our only relic right now, and we can save the game again, so make sure to do that too. Hopefully you built up a bunch of extra levels at the Leet River, because those will transfer over to this game. Getting through Zozo with just Edgar can be kind of difficult, but with those extra levels we earned, we definitely stand a chance. For 100 gold pieces we can rent a chocobo that will take us all the way to Zozo, and remember, this city is hostile. We can handle a lot of the enemies, but I highly recommend running away from the Hades Gygus. Those guys can use magnitude 8, and that could destroy Edgar. I do recommend that you pick up Edgar's chainsaw. Remember, the time is 6:10:50. The chainsaw will definitely come in handy as we move forward. Once you complete Zozo, do the opera, and then finish the Magitech factory. This will allow us to get an airship that we can actually use. Once the airship's ready, fly it over to South Figaro, and then you need to make a party of exactly Locke, Terra, and Edgar. Sometimes whenever you're playing the game slightly out of order, if you have the wrong characters and one of the characters you need is missing, the game will just freeze up, so make sure to choose the right party. After landing near South Figaro, walk to Mount Colts and work your way through it. After defeating Vargas, we'll get Sabin back and we'll be able to actually use his blitzes. From there, continue on to the Returner's hideout and then complete the Leet River. After Ultros goes down, we will be taken to the screen where we can select scenarios, and you want to choose Sabin's scenario first. Complete all of Sabin's scenario. Yeah, that could take a little while. Then you'll be taken back to the scenario select screen, and this time we're going to choose Locke's scenario. So pick his next. But we're not going to complete Locke's scenario, at least not yet. Save Celis and then escape from South Figaro. Once you get outside, you'll notice that the airship is still here. Nice! Take the airship and fly it to Narshe. Now this part is tricky. Whenever we get into Narshe, we will be immediately escorted to Banon's house. And Banon has a plan for us. After talking to Banon, do not leave Narshe. Go up into the mines instead and face Kefka in the snowfield. So once you get to the top of the mountain here, you'll be able to trigger this group battle. But then Terra leaves the party, which is a problem. We need Terra to be able to open the sealed gate. But if we didn't do the snowfield battle, we would get blocked from going back into Narshe. So we need to make a party of just Edgar and Locke and return to Figaro Castle. Make sure that Edgar is the party leader. Because we're going to be doing some time traveling, we have to play by Back to the Future rules, and we don't want Locke to run into himself in a previous timeline. When Edgar bumps into Locke, we'll lose Edgar, but we're going to get Terra back, And although it seems like Locke walks away, we actually still have him in our party, or we have the other copy of Locke. So there he is. Now we have a party of Terra and Locke. Do not try to change your party or you'll lose Terra. You'll have to take just this team of Terra and Locke all the way to the sealed gate. Once the sealed gate has been opened, you can change your party, but you'll still lose Terra. This may seem like a disaster, but once we have dinner with the Emperor, we will automatically get her back. So it's okay if you want to switch things up for a moment. From here, we need to complete the events at Thamasa, where General Leo totally gets killed by Kefka, and then we bury him and we see his grave. All of that happens. So there's General Leo's grave. We lay some flowers at it, but that's okay. Even though General Leo seems very dead, we will be able to get him back later. Work your way through the floating continent, and this time we're actually going to finish it. Once we get to the world of Ruin, we have a little bit of work to do. We need to recruit Edgar, and it will make things a little bit easier if you recruit Sabin first. You don't have to though. Once you have Edgar, we'll go to Collingen where we'll meet up with Setzer, and then we can get the Falcon airship. During this time, be careful not to bump into Locke over in Figaro Castle, because we need to get Terra back first. Once we have Terra, change up your party so that we have a party with only Terra in it. This is very important. As Terra, we're going to fly the Falcon back to Figaro Castle, but it's in the Collingen position right now. We need to move it back to its South Figaro position. So that's the first thing we're going to do whenever we get in there. We'll head down to the basement, and we're going to take the castle all the way back to South Figaro. The guy will ask us if we want to continue our journey, tell him that we do, and whenever we get here, now we need to go meet Locke. It turns out that that other copy of Locke has been waiting for us this entire time over in the right tower, and whenever we talk to him, it will trigger the events that will complete the earlier quest here at Figaro Castle. Now, if you saw the last part of the guide, you can probably figure out where we're going with this. Once we complete the events here at Figaro, we're going to be able to travel back in time. So yes, the castle will go underground, and whenever it does, it thinks that we're supposed to be in the world of balance, so that's the world that it loads up whenever we finish that event. And here we are back in the world of balance. This whole time travel thing never ceases to amaze me, and I really wish I knew about this back in the 90s. In any case, we're going to ride our chocobo over to the cave to South Figaro, and because we have the right party of Edgar, Locke, and Terra, we'll be able to get through this with no problem. Once we get inside though, we never finished Locke's scenario, so suddenly we're drawn into the battle against the tunnel armor. We also see some words from Celis, who is definitely not here. The tunnel armor is weak against bolt magic, so at Terra's current level, she can probably defeat it with a single spell. And I like this. It's as if these characters have never seen her use magic before. Hilarious. Now, here's the cool part. Whenever we defeat tunnel armor, that completes Locke's scenario and brings us back to the scenario selection screen. Well, we only have one choice, Terra's scenario, and it seems like Bannon is there in the party, but whenever we hit a monster, you'll see that it's General Leo. Now you may be wondering what happened here. Well, the game only has one memory slot for an extra character, so whenever it loads up Bannon, Leo would be erased, and whenever Leo is loaded up, Bannon is erased from the memory, so it just remembers the last one that was in there. Normally, Bannon would get loaded into the memory at the returner's hideout, but we never see Bannon again after we see him in Vector when it's on fire. Leo got loaded into the memory in Thamasa, so after we completed Locke's scenario, Leo was the most current character in that memory slot, and therefore, Leo is the character that we get. Just like Bannon, you can't change your party members or you'll lose General Leo. And just like Bannon, things get a little bit wonky when Leo rides a chocobo, but out on the world map, he actually looks pretty normal riding a bird, which makes me think that the programmers may have considered making Leo a more permanent character at some point. I don't remember Leo riding a chocobo at any point in the game during a cutscene, so it seems strange that he has animations for that. From here, there's not much we can do with General Leo in the World of Balance, so we'll take him through the cave to South Figaro, and we'll take the ferry to Nikia. When we do, it sure looks like we're sailing across the world of ruin, not the world of balance, and yes, when we get to Nikia, we have time traveled to the future. Going to the future is a one-way trip. We will not be able to get back to the world of balance. And we don't want to stay in Nikia, we actually want to go back to South Figaro. Whenever we get there, we'll be able to take a walk over to Figaro Castle. We will be able to use the castle to get back to the Collingen area, and that's where we left our airship. So we'll ask the old man for assistance, and there you have it. General Leo in the world of ruin with an airship. It took quite a bit of work to bring General Leo to the world of ruin, but now that he's here, what should we do with him? Well, why don't we take a page out of the Ghost of Christmas Futures playbook and make him go to the village of Thamasa, where he can observe his own grave. Yeah, General Leo, that's where we buried you after you died. We can also have Leo get eaten by the Zone Eater, and although you can't change your party, we can add an additional party member, and Gogo's a great choice. They won't be able to add Leo's shock to their menu of actions, but Gogo can mimic the shock maneuver, so sometimes you'll be able to get double shocks. We can take him to Owzer's basement, where he can battle the demon Chadarnook, and if you want to see his surprised face, take him to meet Mog. There it is. You may think that Leo would be perfect for the Colosseum, but unfortunately it doesn't really work out the way you might want it to. You may have noticed that it said Bannon fell there. That's just further confirmation that Leo and Bannon share the same memory slot. And whenever you stay the night at an inn, yeah, that happened. Did Leo spend the entire night standing in the middle of the room? That is weird. You may be wondering what happens when Leo dies, and the answer is nothing special. You won't get an automatic game over. You can't take Leo to the Phoenix Cave or to Kefka's Tower, but here are his stats at level 40. A nice 52 vigor there. Very powerful. But that's it for this part of the guide. Make sure to join us next time when we'll finally take on Kefka and bring this story to a conclusion. Until then, thanks for watching.